Interesting times for Newcastle financially. Arsenal without Mourinho for the rest of the season. Odegaard out injured at the moment as well, and Ethan Nwaneri on loan and no recall at Marseille. So the Gunners were linked with arguably Newcastle's best player, Sandro Tonali. Eddie Howe also said this week that they had no intention of letting him leave. Now you heard there the voice of the CEO at Newcastle, David Hopkinson, saying that they intend to be challenging for Premier League, Champions League within the next 5 years. I know Newcastle fans who work on Talksport's YouTube Newcastle United fans programme that are absolutely fuming with that, because they just cannot see it. They cannot agree with that, bearing in mind the Newcastle financial situation, that I don't think they've spent anything in the last 3 January transfer windows. It's not realistic, is it? Next 5 years, Stuart, for Newcastle United to be challenging for Premier League and Champions League.
I think it's a big ask, I really do. The financial situation and not being able to bring players in that are really going to make the difference. Interesting to listen to Eddie. And there's a clamour by supporters to want to sign players, no matter who they are almost, as long as we're signing somebody. And I've always been very pragmatic as a manager and thought, unless they can go into my first team and improve us, don't bother. Save your money. Keep your money to another window when you can really invest in somebody that you think's going to wow the fans and wow yourself.
What a brilliant interview it was, though, on White and Jordan this morning with CEO David Hopkinson, because it gave us a little bit of a window into different things. You know, he did say what you've quoted there, but he also said, but we've got a lot of wood to chop between now and then. And I think he was asked us about PSR or SCR as it's going to be, or FSR, whatever it is. The rules that stop you from spending, basically. And they are in a very different position to Arsenal, to Manchester United, to Chelsea, to Manchester City, to Liverpool, to Tottenham. After listening to David earlier, I looked at the revenues that these clubs bring in. Newcastle's match day revenue is 77 million quid. Manchester United is 156 million quid. Arsenal's 153. Manchester City's commercial revenue is 400 million pounds. Newcastle's is less than 100 million pounds. So that makes that every decision they make in the transfer market has to be a success. They can't afford to make a mistake. Every purchase now that is going to take Newcastle forward is going to be a huge one. So therefore, if they make it, it has to land.
And I think that I was talking to Alan Pardew about this. He was on our commentary. He was a pundit, very good pundit as well, for the Arsenal-Chelsea game last night on Talksport. And he actually said that when he was manager there, and it was under the Mike Ashley regime, the local money they could bring in was limited, because there aren't the companies that are prepared to part with the money in that part of the world. There's a limited amount of corporate space at Newcastle United's ground as well. So there are restrictions within the club, never mind restrictions imposed on them from outside.
That is the case, but when you get ownerships that are prepared, probably, I've got half a mentality. I want to see football clubs being sustainable. I don't want to see clubs overstretching and boom and bust. I definitely do not want that. The footballing man in me suggests that. But there is part of me thinks that why are you constraining football clubs that have got ownerships that it's a drop in the ocean what they could invest into a football club? I think somewhere down the line there's a compromise, and that compromise for me is a sort of a bond put somewhere that safeguards the future, that's held outside maybe the owners and held by the league. I don't know.
By the Premier League, yeah.
Why would Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool and Tottenham try and ensure that there was rules to stop everybody from spending more than they earn? I mean, why would they do that? Look, the fact is that there are ways of extending the revenue, and he talked about this on the show this morning. He said, look, of course it's a challenge for us to break into that top six. Of course it is, because clearly the rules are stacked against us, but it's our job to find a way to crack that code and do it. And he talked about digital revenue. The digital revenue is just not there at Newcastle United. He compared it. Look at Real Madrid and the way they operate. He said there's 40 staff that tweet and Instagram and TikTok in 7 different languages and make sure that they time release it all around the world to hit different markets. All that's sponsored, and that brings in massive revenue. They don't do that in Newcastle because they don't have the global fan base to do it, but they've got to grow that somehow. How they're going to do that by 2030, I don't know. But
so how do we view that from Eddie Howe? Because when he said those words, I've got to choose my words carefully, when talking about the financial restrictions and not, signing players in January, even though they've got some injuries, significant injuries as well. When he said, I've got to choose my words carefully, I don't think he's having a pop at his own ownership. I think he's just talking about the fact that there are restrictions on the football club. Is he likely? Yeah, he's in a great position, and he's at a very big football club, and he's doing very well at that football club, relatively speaking. He's won them a trophy. His legacy there is intact, whatever happens. But might he be getting frustrated as an individual, Stuart?
I would say yes. I think, like all managers, I think he's created something at Newcastle and put them at a level. At the moment, I would say they're underachieving from the level that he himself has set at the football club. And he'll be frustrated that, he wants to go on. He wants that when someone picks a phone up and says, we want Isak will turn around and say, no chance, I want to stay here. This place is going somewhere. I don't want to go anywhere. And doesn't have to deal with the fallout that we saw last summer, which is a real irritation to any manager.
Yeah, and he was affected by that. And I've known him for a very long time, as you know. I will also say this, though. He is very cautious about who he brings into the group. And he's working... In the summer this year, they had the Isak distraction, but also they had no sporting director, so a lot of the recruitment fell on his shoulders and his team. Whereas Ross Wilson has come in from Nottingham Forest now, very established sporting director, and I think that will help him going forward. They did have a few irons in the fire in the January transfer window. They almost got one of them over the line, didn't quite work, but they are saving themselves for the summer, where they think they'll get longer-term targets, as Stuart said, that can enhance the first team.
Yeah, it was just going to be young players for the future had they signed anybody in January. Didn't happen. A big banner away to our right, a Manchester City banner has been unfurled as the players are set to make their way out onto the pitch. Officials first, and then the players will follow. Leeds Forest, Premier League, Friday night, live and exclusive and only on Talksport. What a huge game that is in the wrong half of the table. Man United Spurs, always a big one. Saturday lunchtime, live and exclusive on Talksport. Michael Carrick with that 100% record. Game day live around the ground Saturday afternoon from a big one down at the bottom. Burnley against West Ham, and game day live Sunday afternoon covering Brighton Palace and Liverpool against Man City, and the Scottish Cup 5th round, as well as the WSL 1:30 Sunday afternoon with Sam on Talksport. Tonight, Arsenal need someone to play with at Wembley. Manchester City 2-up against Newcastle, second leg live on Talksport with double League Cup winning captain Stuart Pearce alongside your commentator Sam Matface.
Yeah, good evening everyone. Welcome to the Etihad Stadium in Manchester, where Manchester City stand on the edge of a 9th League Cup final, and Newcastle United face an almighty task to claw their way back to Wembley. When these two met in the 1976 League Cup final, Peter Barnes and Dennis Stewart sent City to glory. 50 years later, it is their modern counterparts who hold all the cards. Antoine Semenyo, the £65 million signing, who's already written himself into City folklore with 4 goals in his first 5 appearances. Ryan Cherky, whose stoppage time dagger at St James's Park 2 weeks ago may have been the knockout blow. He's only on the bench tonight. They can afford to rest players because of that 2-goal advantage. Erling Haaland, who is exhausted according to his manager, is also on the bench. No team has ever overturned a 2-goal home first leg deficit in a League Cup semi-final. Newcastle United need to do what they've never done under Eddie Howe and score at the Etihad Stadium. Not just once, but 3 times tonight. But Eddie Howe doesn't do history, he rewrites it. First Newcastle win at the Emirates in 13 years, done. First trophy in 56 years, done. First win at Old Trafford in a decade, done. Can he scribe a new chapter tonight? 6 changes for Manchester City from their weekend draw, where they dropped points again in the second half in the match against Tottenham Hotspur. For Newcastle United, just 3 changes. They have gone back to the back 3. Our referee tonight is Tony Harrington. We do have VAR. Paul Howard and Tim Wood are in the booth back in Stockley Park. And we could have extra time and penalties should Newcastle claw back the 2-goal deficit. The 2 captains alongside the officials in the centre circle, just going through the formalities before we start. Manchester City in light blue jerseys with white shorts and light blue socks. And Newcastle United in black and white striped jerseys, black shorts and black socks, shooting from left to right. It is a Wednesday night. It's very chilly. It's a very long way over to this part of the world for the Newcastle fans, but the top tier away to our right is absolutely jam-packed of the Toon Army, and there are 5,000 of them that have made that journey tonight. It means there should be a pretty good atmosphere inside this stadium with such a high level of Newcastle supporters. They attack the goal away to our left in the first half, and City from left to right. We are underway. City absolutely dominated possession in the first leg but had chances. Bruno hit the bar, Wissa missed the sitter. Stuart Pearce, mastermind champ. Will City finish what they started, or will Eddie Howe show that rewriting history is his specialist subject?
Well, the beauty of the profession that we love so much is it's always a question mark. Your head's telling you it's a City victory tonight and another Carabao Cup final in front of them, but you never do know.
Ake has it on the edge of the 18-yard box away to our left. Trafford almost just got himself in a little bit of trouble with a heavy touch, but managed to play out through to O'Reilly. Very quickly releases Reinders, and then it's on to Marmoush, who scampers upfield towards the edge of the Newcastle penalty area. Chops on his right foot. It's blocked by Trippier as he unleashes the shot, and it bounces into midfield. But it was a very quick City slick move that moved them from defence into attack, and it started with the goalkeeper, Stuart.
Yeah, it certainly did. Trafford looked as though he took a slightly heavy touch, but that drew the Newcastle press onto him, and I've got to say they were very slick when they played 2 or 3 passes and all of a sudden Marmoush is free.
Records are meant to be broken. Eddie Howe said in his press conference this week, if we can secure the next goal, we remain in the contest. It's 2-0 on aggregate, 0-0 on the night. We've played 1 minute and 30 seconds on Talksport. More football than anybody else, and live basketball tonight on the Talksport YouTube channel, which we've got streaming on one of the phones here as well at the moment, which we were looking at a little bit earlier on. Here is Nico O'Reilly inside the centre circle, picking the ball up for Manchester City. He moves the ball out towards the far side. It goes back to Nathan Ake and then on to Kusanov, who strides over halfway. Phil Foden turns from Tonali and Botman, who are right up against him as he flies the ball to the far side, and Ryan Aït-Nouri brings it infield, just left of the centre circle to find O'Reilly. He fizzes a pass forward into Marmoush, loose from him, won by Tonali, up to Gordon. Now Voltemarder's got to secure the ball. He can't, he gives it away. And it's won by Manchester City. They give it away in midfield. Joe Willock then gives it infield to Voltemarder. It's very congested in that central area, and again Manchester City wrestle it back. Yeah,
I'm looking at Newcastle, and Gordon can't drop to a deep position for me. He's got to stay on the shoulder of the deepest Manchester City defender in case the turnover of possession comes and then he's in behind.
Because that's their route out, isn't it? The ball in behind, which has cost Manchester City dear in recent weeks. In fact, in the first leg of this game, Jacob Murphy had some great joy down the right-hand side in particular, getting in behind, and actually his removal at half-time with a hamstring injury, I think, hampered the approach of Newcastle United. He is back on the bench tonight, as he was at the weekend. Here is O'Reilly, forward into a central area, looking for Omar Marmoush. The Egyptian just nudges the ball into the path of Tijani Reinders. Collected again by O'Reilly, tall and muscular, and he passes it back into Ake and then on to Reinders again. Reinders out to Aït-Nouri. Aït-Nouri's about 7 steps back from the edge of the area. Infield it goes to Nico Gonzalez. Rodri on the bench tonight. Scooped forward to the right. Chesney down by Matthias Nunes, and the very impressive Lewis Hall escapes. And actually, the referee has blown the whistle and failed to play the advantage. And there was an example there that Gordon was in behind the Manchester City defence.
Yeah, as I say, just prior to that attack, the whole of the Newcastle sort of team dropped back within 30 yards of their goal, and I was just watching Eddie Howe just pointing to Gordon to get further up the pitch. He's got to allow Voltemarder to drop deep to link play, but he's got to be on that shoulder for what we've just seen there, that counter-attack nice and early.
4 minutes gone, you're listening to TalkSport, and in North America, the USA and Canada tonight, you're listening to us live from Manchester's Etihad Stadium. on Sirius XM FC. Thank you very much for lending us your ears wherever you are in that country this evening, those two countries this evening. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a little bit chilly here, not as chilly as some parts of North America have been over the last couple of weeks, but nonetheless, we're all wrapped up as Newcastle look to come forward down the left-hand side with Lewis Hall tossing the ball into Tonali. Back down the left touchline it goes. Hall trying to get away from Foden, runs into Semenyo, who robs him of possession, plays it against Big Dan Burn. The ball bounds into touch and it's away for a throw-in halfway inside opposition territory. 0-0 the score. Kusanov on the right finds Matis Nunez, who quickly shifts the ball from right side to left. It's chested out of the sky by Ryan Aït-Nouri. He's been marshalled by Kieran Trippier, and then it goes all the way back to Ake, and it's collected by Trafford once again away to our left. 0-0. Trafford whacks it clear. Big high ball through the middle of the pitch. Dan Burn against Semenyo. Only one winner, and Burn's header is back into his feet from Nunez, and then Newcastle have possession inside their own half. The City press is aggressive. Hall has it left side, inside Newcastle territory. The outball is Botman swinging it to the right, and Trippier. It's a little bit short to Burn, but he's dabbed that forward into the path of Gordon. Gordon's held it up well, can't feed it back into Ramsey, and then it's won by Manchester City, who've actually started the game quite brightly.
Yeah, City in full control of the ball, but every now and then Newcastle will turn over and they're looking for that forward pass.
City did surrender a 2-goal lead at Spurs at the weekend, continuing a recent trend really of fading performances in the second half of games. But DeAndre Yedlin was the last player to score a Newcastle goal at the Etihad Stadium. That was 7.5 years ago. Here is Omar Marmoush, played in by Reinders, running into the penalty area. Burn comes across, it bounces off of Omar Marmoush, deflects behind the goalkeeper, and Manchester City lead by 1-0 on the night, 3-0 aggregate, and exactly what Eddie Howe didn't want to happen in the first few minutes of the game has happened, and Pep Guardiola cannot hide his joy. He turns round to the crowd, he fist pumps in the air, he runs out to the edge of his technical area, puts his hands above his head and celebrates, fist pumps into the sky, because he knows that is a crucial goal. Dan Burns attempted a sliding tackle and clearance, came back off Marmoush, who was bearing down on goal initially, running in from the left edge of the area. He deflected off the Egyptian, scooped over Ramsdale, and it's Manchester City 1, Newcastle United 0.
Well, I've got to say, absolutely outstanding give and go by Marmoush. He's come off, he's flicked the ball off, and he's spun in behind Chow, and he couldn't live with him. He's gone in behind, and Dan Burn, the most unluckiest man in the world, he's covered brilliant ground to get across for a slide tackle, and he's just managed to cannon it straight into Marmoush, and the ball's cannoned in the goal.
Well, what do you do now if you're Newcastle United? Because we know that in this situation there's not much chance of Newcastle United scoring 3 goals against Manchester City when they haven't scored here for 8 years. It looks a forlorn task 7.5 minutes in.
Yeah, it certainly does. They're just going to have to recover, settle the situation down, but that's a real body blow for Eddie Howe and his team. But you've got to say, great play by Marmoush, wasn't it? You know, your typical wing play, ball into feet, and just sets it in one and spins in behind you. It's very difficult to stay with players.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Combination between Marmoush and Tiani Reinders. Here is Gordon, though, going through the centre, and he's got options to his left and right. And one of those is Willock, who goes round the goalkeeper, but the goalkeeper stretches and grabs it just as it looked to be evading him. Joe Willock, Lewis Hall and Gordon going through on James Trafford, and the goalkeeper comes out on top.
Well, you asked a question a couple of seconds ago, what do you do now if you're Newcastle? You do exactly what we've just seen. They ripped Manchester City open there with runners running from midfield and in behind the back line. City nowhere to be seen, and I've got to say, Trafford's done magnificently well.
Well, Joe Willock had a really good game in the Parc des Princes a week ago, scored the crucial equaliser. He probably should have scored the equaliser here, and it was only the agility and the anticipation of James Trafford which stopped him from doing so. Manchester City 1, Newcastle United 0. This is Talksport live at the Etihad Stadium. Dan Burns slides the ball out of play inside his own half.
Both teams are demonstrating that they're quite happy to play that ball in behind, slick little 1-2s or balls over the top, and it's causing each of the defences a problem in itself.
Ball thrown into the box, and it goes past everybody and into the arms of Aaron Ramsdale, and he quickly bowls it out to the right full-back area where Kieran Trippier is waiting. Infield it goes to Jacob Ramsey. I mean, look, most of us will probably think that the game is almost up now, especially if they score another one, and that was a short back pass from Hall which almost put Botman in trouble. Got away with it with a clearance off Semenyo, but it's imperative now that Newcastle get the next goal in the game.
Yeah, it certainly is. It doesn't look as though the Newcastle players' heads have dropped in any way, shape or form. You know, they're still plugging away here. But to get that tactically right and to make sure that they've got someone threatening the back line of City is vital from now on.
Well, they're doing it again with Voltemada releasing Trippier. Trippier then trying to chip it through towards the goal threat, which is Gordon, through the middle of the pitch. But Kusanov watched it all the way, and it was just a little bit too heavy for the Englishman. And it was chested down to Trafford by the Uzbekistan international. Gobbled up by Trafford and cleared to halfway. Thrown out to the near touchline of Matthias Nunez. A little back heel into Foden. Foden travels down the touchline, watched by Tonali, tackled by Byrne, overturned, and then Byrne dives in for a tackle. And it goes straight through to Nico Gonzalez, and City moving the ball very quickly. O'Reilly to Reinders, who opens up his stride and gets to the edge of the area. He fends it out to the left, and Marmoush back to the edge of the box, and Aït-Nouri into Reinders, rolls it across his body, turns and shoots. It's only narrowly wide, you know. It went right the way through the 6-yard box and out the other side. And it was another good opportunity, well worked by Manchester City, and it started with that quick, sharp football in the middle of the park.
It certainly was. It was a straight ball. What a turn it was by Reinders. He's cushioned it across his body in the turn. Tonali not staying with him, and he's driven it across the face of the goal. And I was waiting for the net to ripple, but it never did.
Here is Willock picking the ball up midfield. He's being chased by Phil Foden. Then Hall takes over. It's given to Tonali, who wants to get it out to the right-hand side where Trippier is waiting for it. Tonali's ball out to him was just short, but Trippier's done well to win it back off of Ryan Aït-Nouri. Now Tonali's got it again, and then it's dispossessed by a combination of Marmoush and Reinders who got in each other's way, so the ball's spilled kindly for Jacob Ramsey, and just short of the centre circle he turns it back towards his centre half, Malik Chiao. It's the 1-0 to Manchester City, live on Talksport on this Wednesday night in the Carabao Cup semi-final. It's 3-0 on aggregate to Manchester City. The holders in danger of going out at the semi-final stage. Here's Willock down the left from Gordon. They haven't given up though, Newcastle. It must be said they've looked a threat even since conceding that goal.
What I would say, I think Manchester City give you a chance with the exposure in behind their back four, Sam, you know. I'm not sure Voltemada is the answer to that, because, you know, he's more of a hold-up player than a running behind merchant, and I think one of their speed merchants would have been a better suit for this game.
Jan Visser is on the bench for Newcastle United. Ball sent into open territory by Dan Burn. I think the idea is that Anthony Gordon is the one who goes sprinting in behind, as he did brilliantly actually in the game at Anfield, especially in the first half, Stuart.
Yeah, I thought he was outstanding in the first half, the best player on the pitch in that game. But what he's got to do is make sure he doesn't, you know, work too hard for the team, as silly as it sounds, and drop too deep trying to get in a defensive position. He's got to almost think to himself, where can I go on turnover of possession? What area can I get that's really going to hurt City?
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be the one that stays up, and then Voltemada can be the one who gets involved in the bits and pieces.
Yeah, and I think that suits them both individually. You know, one likes running in behind, the other one's a reasonably good hold-up player.
Malik Chiao just held off Marmoush. You see a look to escape in behind, didn't manage it. And Ramsdale tidies up from the goal kick. Botman almost ties himself in knots under pressure from Foden, but gets it back to Ramsdale. Ramsdale's clearance is high and long, but it goes over the head of Gordon. Ake brings it down inside his own half, just left of centre, then feeds it out to Aït-Nouri with his very short haircut now, Aït-Nouri. The ball runs loose inside the centre circle. Hall and Foden combine. Hall gets a little whack on the top of his shin. And, well, it was the follow-through from Foden, which Tony Harrington didn't like. Pep Guardiola is saying that was just a natural coming together of two players fighting for the same ball. Harrington has disagreed.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very poor decision. Foden's got there first. He's played the ball first. His feet are firmly sort of tucked in on the ground. No exposure of studs at all. And I'm not sure what you do there. I don't know what Foden can do there. It's just a coming together of two players after the ball's played.
Well, he slid, didn't he? Won the ball, nudged it. Hall came in towards him. It was a coming together. Here is Trippier on the halfway line with a free kick, floating it to the edge of the box. It bounces off the back of Dan Burns' head. Hall sets it forward, comes to Ramsey. I don't entirely know what that was all about, but he just volleyed the ball high into the air and over the top of the crossbar. A little bit random and wild from Jacob Ramsey. A couple of Manchester City fans suggesting that, having been Manchester City fans for 6 decades, they will tell you that the game is not over yet, even though it appears to be. But that's just the sceptic in them.
It's amazing. You look around the stadium, and we're in a major semi-final here, and there's a lot of spaces available in this stadium, isn't there? You know,
in the home end, yeah.
The top tier across from us there. So there's less than 50% in that stand itself.
Yeah, in the top tier of the stand opposite us, there is a lot of empty seats. There's a couple in the middle tier on the right-hand side, and then a big clutch over on the left. I mean, a lot of the bottom tier is full, but yes, there is a lot of space inside the stadium tonight. As Aït-Nouri races away into space inside the Newcastle half, he gets into the box down the left side, takes a deflection as he shoots, and it bounces off Chow and out for a corner away to our right-hand side. It was a very fast run from Ryan Aït-Nouri, who galloped away down that left-hand touchline, got to the edge of the area, and he found actually that there was a lot of room in behind Trippier, who was still caught upfield. And his shot was deflected by Malik Chow. Yeah,
it's that same area where the goals come from, sort of in and around Chow. Movement in behind the back line once again.
Here's the corner to be taken far side by Tiani Reinders, who, right-footed, drops it in towards the edge of the 6-yard box, headed by Ake. Claims of handball. It's loose inside the 18-yard box. It's picked up by Omar Marmoush, who runs down the right side of the Newcastle penalty area, gets it onto his right foot. It's a low ball to the edge of the area looking for Foden. Foden then shapes it out towards Reinders, who takes one touch to set it, then sends it back to Nico Gonzalez. And instead of putting the ball into the box, he sends it to Aït-Nouri, who sends it back towards the edge of the area. It bounces to Foden, he shoots, it's blocked, it comes back to Foden from Semenyo. It's very, very congested inside the box. They get it out towards Semenyo, flashes the ball through the 6-yard box, and somehow it doesn't go home. It will not be touched in, but that was relentless pressure from Manchester City, who kept their foot on the floor there, and they kept getting into the faces of the Newcastle players, and Pep Guardiola trying to get those that are in the stadium behind his team.
Yeah, I mean, I think Pep at the moment is auditioning for the role of Moonchester. When he retires as manager, he'll become the fluffy mascot, the way he's jumping around.
You've worn that costume, haven't you?
I've worn Wolfie, the Warrington Wolves mascot, but I've not been inside.
You've not been inside
Moonchester.
That is a revelation, if ever I've heard one.
Or Moonbeam, for that matter.
Okay,
by the way.
Well, it's good. I'm very pleased that you've clarified that. Here is Voltemada out to Trippier over on the far side. It's picked up back to the German, who's about 15 yards inside opposition territory. He tries to squeeze in between two Manchester City jerseys, but they rob him of the ball, and City, who look pretty comfortable at the moment, have the ball in the left full-back area. It's flown forward by O'Reilly into Reinders, who chests it down in behind the defence. He goes beyond Ramsey, who's there to try and help out because Newcastle had a position. It comes back to Marmoush's shot, takes a deflection. It goes wide of the left-hand upright, but it is another corner for Manchester City, who have had their foot to the floor right from the very off.
Yeah, City have sort of squeezed high on the press, almost gone man for man, but that's left exposed, and it's that inside left area again where the ball's gone, Sam. And City, I've got to say, have been very, very good in the build-up, in and around the box. Even when Newcastle are back in numbers, they've been patient with their build-up.
Yeah, that area in between Chow and Trippier is the one that's getting exposed in the opening 20 minutes of the game. We did mention it beforehand as the ball goes in towards the 6-yard box, punched away by Ramsdale. Kept alive by Aït-Nouri on the far side. He stopped Anthony Gordon from escaping at rapid speed, actually. And it goes out for a Newcastle throw in the right fullback position. It's 1-0 to Manchester City on the night. It's 3-0 on aggregate. And 2 weeks ago at St James's Park, Manchester City did what until that point only Manchester City had done to Newcastle this season, and that was keep them scoreless at home. Villa then went there and did the same. Newcastle have given the ball away from their throw-in straight to Antoine Semenyo, who shot from the edge of the area, and it's gone narrowly wide. And that was a little bit sloppy.
Yeah, I've got to say, I covered Newcastle's game at PSG as well, and that area of the pitch was a big problem. Balls being played inside Miley. I think it was Barcola was causing a big problem.
Well, he won the penalty that way, didn't he, in the first few minutes of the game? And I just wonder whether or not is that a set-up thing? Is that because it's the three at the back and the wing-backs? Oh, here's Gordon, headed on by Willock into the penalty area, plays it against the floor and into Trafford's body, and makes a big save. It's out for a corner. But that's another big chance for Newcastle United. So Willock's had a great chance. Gordon's had a great chance. It was a long kick upfield by Ramsdale, flicked on by Byrne, helped on by Willock. It came to Anthony Gordon. His finish was not clean. The save was.
Yeah, they'll be disappointed, City. They've ceded a couple of chances. It's been 2-1 on ones now, which they really should have scored.
Isn't it?
Indeed, it is.
Here is the corner away to our left. Tonali to take it, left side. He'll swing it in, right-footed. It's towards Dan Burn, but headed away by Ake. Picked up by Ramsey far side. He guides it back towards Trippier. Trippier across to Hall. Hall might drip this straight over the top for someone to try and get onto. Tonali might be that man, and he steers the ball forward, and it's into the arms of the goalkeeper before he can chase down the second ball. What a chance.
Yeah, decent. I think the referee would have blown up for a slight infringement from Tonali there. But I think there's encouragement there. Newcastle's reaction, I think, would have pleased Eddie from getting a goal down in this particular game. They've done pretty well.
Nico Gonzalez almost robbed a possession on the edge of the 18-yard box by Joe Willock, steered forward by Trippier. Tonali, can they get the next goal in the game, Newcastle United? That's the key here tonight, if they want to have any chance of an unbelievable rescue act. Here is Malik Chiao, just dawdling a little bit, invited a bit of pressure. Botman doesn't take any chances because Reinders is behind him, so he decides to get it clear. A fit and firing Sven Botman, so important to this Newcastle United team. He again has suffered with a bit of injury in recent weeks. That's a good ball by Ramsey. He pushes it out to the right side where Trippier tries to release Anthony Gordon. Aït-Nouri deals with that and intervenes, but Gordon's won it back again. Trippier 12 yards inside opposition territory on the right side, guides it back infield to Ramsey, and then Newcastle retreat back towards the halfway line, keep possession, and then Botman will go all the way home to the goalkeeper. It's still 1-0. Byrne in the left fullback position, slides it down into the path of the German Voltemada, long and lean and with curly hair on top of his head, long sleeve shirt on, out to Hall on the near side, and the fair-haired Hall is wrestled to the ground by the Portuguese Matheus Nunes, and it will be a free kick short of the halfway line for Newcastle.
Just out of interest, where else would Valtemada's long curly hair be if it wasn't on his head?
Well, it might be a chest wig, I know you've worn one of those when you were gearing up for another one of your mascot duties. We've obviously heard tonight just how much you like to get into fancy dress. I could actually see you doing a turn as Nick Voltemada, to be honest with you, at our next fancy dress party.
Look forward to that.
Whatever happened to that plan that we had of going to the darts in disguise, by the way?
Yeah, we were, weren't we?
Here's Gordon down the right-hand side, moving towards the edge of the penalty area on the attack. Reinders comes across. Ake puts it out of play, but he played it against Gordon. Gordon's getting a little bit frustrated over on that far side. 23 gone. It's 1-0. Yeah, the idea was we were going to go to the World Championships, was it?
Yeah, Ali Pali.
But we were going to go in disguise, so you didn't get spotted.
Yeah, I was going to go as something really outlandish, like a pundit.
Free kick in the left full-back area. It's Newcastle United trailing here by a goal to nil. Just looking down at the benches and seeing Johan Wissa and Anthony Elanga in conversation, neither of whom look particularly happy. Newcastle have come back from big deficits before. There was a game in the Premier League where they came back from 4-0 down once to draw 4-4 with Arsenal. It is the record comeback for a draw, but it has so far not been their night. Tomorrow night, by the way, is a night of no live football. That's a rarity, isn't it? Friday night, though, we've got Leeds against Nottingham Forest in the Premier League and Queen's Park Rangers against Charlton on Talksport 2. So a game on either of the two channels. On Saturday, bumper to bumper, as you would imagine, from 12:30 right the way through the day. We've got Manchester United Tottenham is our Talksport exclusive. Derby Ipswich from the Championship. Game day live with Martin Keown, Scott Minto and Adrian Durham taking you around the grounds at 2:30. Coventry Oxford at 3 o'clock on Talksport 2. Arsenal Man City in the Women's Super League is live on Talksport 2 on Sunday. And Game day live with Scott and Perry and I will come to you at 1:30 on Sunday from Liverpool against Manchester City, which we're looking forward to. And then all next week, of course, all of the Premier League games live on Talksport, are they? Oh, cool. Look at that. Fantastic. Can't wait for that. Talksport app, Talksport is the place to listen to all of the Premier League games next midweek. We're looking forward to that. Back underway here after a brief pause, and Nico O'Reilly has found Foden, who in turn has sent it out to the right-hand side, where Antoine Semenyo is dancing with the ball at his feet, trying to get past Dan Burney, sends it into the middle of the park to find Foden, gives it back to Matthias Nunez, and then Semenyo back to Foden once again, poked on towards O'Reilly. O'Reilly tries to take on Ramsey, who blocks it. The ball runs loose, but it's the City shirt that gets there first. Worked wide out to Aït-Nouri. Aït-Nouri sends it even further on to Reinders, back to the edge of the area. City keeping possession and keeping Newcastle pinned inside their 18-yard box here. 27 minutes into the second leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final on Talksport. And it's 3-0 on aggregate, 1-0 on the night, thanks to a goal from Omar Marmoush. And City are then all the way back to Kusanov inside his own half. And putting Matthias Nunez into a little bit of bother there with the ball behind him, which Nunez does well to wriggle out of. He's got Hall as a shadow at the moment, following right into midfield. And Hall has pinched it, and he's gone running towards the edge of the area. He's pulled back by Matthias Nunez. It's only a yellow card. 4 steps further forward, Stuart, and that would have been a denial of a goal-scoring opportunity.
Yeah, you're right there. I think Hall was about probably another 2 steps away from opening up and having a shot, but it became a vanity project, didn't it, for Nunez? You know, he was twisting, turning, back to play. I don't know what he was trying to achieve, waiting for a pass. In the end, Hall sort of bided his time, really, and just took it off him. But fortunately for Nunez, there was covering defenders.
Well, it gives Newcastle United the opportunity to construct a free kick outside the penalty area, about 9 yards from the edge of the box, maybe 8. Talking about it is Anthony Gordon, Sandro Tonali, Lewis Hall and Kieran Trippier. Goalkeeper James Trafford lining up the wall over towards the near post side, so he'll cover the far post side. And the job here for Kieran Trippier is what? To get it up and over and try and get it in towards this near corner?
Yeah, they got 3 blockers on the end of the wall, Newcastle. I don't think they'll be moving, and Trippier's going to go up and down over the wall. Goalkeeper's blindside
so
for me.
Trippier and Hall standing over it. It's Trippier who gets it up over that wall and down towards that goalkeeper's blindside, but he drops on it brilliantly and stops it from sneaking in the corner. Good save.
Yeah, he's done well so far tonight, Trafford, I've got to say. You know, not in the side on a regular basis. His move to City would have expected more games, I think.
Reinders bounding forward. Semenyo on the left side of the box. A low ball into the centre and it's cleared off the line, but it might come back to Marmoush. He drops out of the sky, he heads it down, and that is a clinching goal for Manchester City. A free kick at one end that James Trafford makes a big stop from, and Pep Guardiola is congratulating him for that. Quick distribution out to the far side. Reinders onto Semenyo, across to Marmoush. The night might not be finished yet, but Newcastle United are. It's 2-0 to Manchester City, 4-0 on aggregate.
Well, I can't help thinking, Sam, that Newcastle were, I don't know whether they're just inadequate or just so unlucky. They've had a Dan Burn challenge that's cannoned back off Marmoush, that's nestled in the back of the net. At this far post here, I think it was Trippier who's got a good block right on the line. Ball could have gone anywhere, over the bar, anywhere. It stayed up in the air. It was the simplest of headers in, and they've missed 2 one-on-ones as well. So, it's a catalogue of sort of unluckiness or disaster. Take your pick.
Well, they are just checking a possible offside here. This could be crucial, Stuart, couldn't it? Because, right now, this game's finished. It's done. 4-0, it's over. But maybe, just maybe, there might be a Newcastle United reprieve here. So the VAR checking things back at Stockley Park. Paul Howard and Timothy Wood, big decision to make.
Yep, I didn't see who might have been offside.
Nor did the VAR just been given. So that was the briefest of checks. Marmoush is smiling, and so are Manchester City, because they're on the way to Wembley. No way back now?
Not for me, unless Newcastle were going to be turned into the most clinical side you've ever seen. And to be fair, on the run of play, there's not been a great deal in this game.
This is not 2-0, is it?
Nowhere near it. And, Newcastle missed 2 one-on-ones with just a goalie to beat, and you'd have thought, come on now.
Kusanov covering the ground so quickly, as he often does, gets there ahead of Ramsey, who was in a good position. It's a heavy touch from Trafford, but he deals with it brilliantly. I tell you what, that is one of the big assets that he has got over other goalkeepers, is the way he's able to play with his feet. He reacts so quickly. Even if he does take a heavy touch, he's got the ability, the quick muscle twitch fibres to be able to get the ball clear.
And I think that's just the small margins that I'm talking about that are not going Newcastle's way. He's miscontrolled it right, just yards from his own goal line.
Well, it's 2-0 on the night. It's 4-0 on aggregate. Pep's got the cigar out, and so have Manchester City. And do you know what? He really did celebrate, didn't he, when that second goal went in. It means a lot to him. A bit like Arsenal last night meant a lot to them getting through to the final. I think it'll mean a lot to him that he gets to the showpiece event on the 22nd of March, which is live on Talksport.
Well, what he does, you've seen his teams at the Carabao Cup final and how he celebrates with his teams, with his staff. It does mean a lot to him, every trophy lift.
Reinders escaping away from Botman, who's running in treacle here. He pokes it out to Semenyo, edge of the area. He cuts pick on his left foot. Might come back to Reinders, who slams it in 7 yards out past Ramsdale. It's another breakaway goal, and in pursuit of their first silverware of the season, City set up a date with Arsenal again, and they will go to the Carabao Cup final, and any doubts that they would be going to Wembley have been extinguished with their third goal in the first half. It's 5-0 on aggregate, and Manchester City are going to Wembley.
Well, I've got to say, City have been clinical. Every chance, every time they've had a little glint of goal, it seems to have rattled the back of the net, and it's a tough night from now on for Newcastle United.
Wow. They've been blown away on the counter-attack, and every time they've escaped, they've managed to cause problems. That ball started in the left full-back position. They were overexposed there, Newcastle United. Sven Botman was completely outpaced by the run of Reinders. Semenyo then bumped into Dan Burn. The ball just deflected actually into the path of Reinders, and a bit like what you're saying, every bounce of the ball is going for Manchester City at the moment against Newcastle United, but they've still got to take those chances, Stuart, and they are doing that.
Yeah, I don't want to take anything away from Manchester City because they've been fantastically clinical, but from Newcastle's point of view, they must have think they've I don't know what they've done, broken a mirror or whatever the unluckiness thing you've ever seen.
It's been a break in a mirror gives you 7 years bad luck, doesn't it? Seen a black cat?
Yes.
Is that another one?
That is, isn't it? Yes.
It is, yeah, okay. I was checking. I didn't know. I'm not an expert in these matters. And producer Izzy has got a list that she's just about to produce.
Yeah, I didn't want to mention Black Cats because that's the sort of Sunderland innuendo, isn't it?
It is, yes.
So,
very good. 3-0 to Manchester City with 11 minutes to go before half-time. And any hopes of a swashbuckling cup tie have been extinguished here by the ruthlessness of the City attack. But it has been a good game so far. And here is Semenyo down the right-hand side, getting into the penalty area, brushed off the ball by Joe Willock. And Semenyo felt he was fouled there. Reverse pass into Gordon. Gordon comes out to the left-hand side, pokes it infield to Lewis Hall. They look for the return. Tonali holds it up, feeds it into Voltemada. And it's picked up by Ramsey, and now Gordon takes United on the attack down the left-hand side. 3-0 the score here. And it is a mountain and a half to climb for Newcastle United and Eddie Howe. Willock, Gordon, Tonali, back to Hall again. Into Gordon, who's crunched to the floor by a combination of Semenyo and O'Reilly, and it's going to be a free kick to Newcastle.
I think Manchester City, the back line, will be absolutely delighted to see Valtemada's name on the team sheet. I'm not sure today's game is a game for him, you know. Newcastle needed to have a couple of speed merchants up front that are consistently going to run in behind, one up, one off.
Do you know what? You know, we went to the game obviously on Saturday night when they went to Anfield, and that setup seems better suited to this tie than the one they've come out with tonight. They had Elanga, Barnes and Gordon, didn't they, all in the front line.
They did, and they caused Liverpool a lot of problems, didn't they? But maybe critical again, not being as clinical as they should have been.
Yeah, well, Eddie Howe's just been saying, actually, you know, you've got to remember that they're dealing with fitness issues and managing minutes as well. Not an easy thing to do. And certainly they've had chances tonight. They just haven't taken them. Here's Gordon. Little reverse ball out to Willock. Willock trying to go round the outside of Nunez. Gets into the penalty area. Pokes it towards Gordon on the edge of the box. And now back to Gordon. To Hall, who slends it forward into the face of Foden. And then there is a trip on the way out involving Nico Gonzalez. The ball is cleared to the near side. And I think that's a free kick on the edge of the area for Manchester City away to our left-hand side. Yeah. Manchester City haven't lost a home game since November the 25th against Bayer Leverkusen. They're unbeaten in 9 home games. They won the last 3. They haven't conceded more than a single goal in the last 8 at the Etihad, which just sort of gives you the size of the task.
Yeah, and I think from Pep's point of view, whether he will or whether he won't, you know, he might at this stage with this scoreline have one eye on Sunday's match, isn't it, at Liverpool?
Yes, away at Liverpool, and Anfield will be a game that live will come from there on Sunday. Newcastle United, I think, playing Brentford this weekend, Saturday night, 5:30. I think that's their next fixture, pretty sure of that. And then they've got Tottenham on Tuesday night live on Talksport. Here is Reinders down the right-hand side of the box, getting into the area, thundering a shot goalwards. It's right at the midriff of Aaron Ramsdale, who stops it from sneaking in. But it's got pretty concerning pretty quickly for Newcastle United, who are now 3-0 down on the night, 5-0 down on aggregate. And actually, when the two sides met last season in the Premier League here, they were 3-0 down in 33 minutes, and they've been 3-0 down again tonight at the same sort of juncture. And Omar Marmoush scored a couple of goals that night as well.
Yeah, I think if this was another side, I could see him going under. I think Newcastle are a particularly genuine team, though. So they'll keep at it and hopefully avoid a real sort of landslide.
Here is the corner to be taken on the near side by Phil Foden. It's a poor delivery into the near post, poked away by Voltemada. He's out for a throw-in down by the corner flag. You're Eddie Howe. I mean, I don't know what you do at this half-time team talk. What do you say?
Well, it's a difficult one, really. He'll be thinking to himself, hang on a minute, I don't want an absolute, disastrous.
Shellacking.
Exactly, that is the word I was looking for. You don't want that, but then again, he might be thinking to himself, hang on, maybe the next game is just as important and I need to look after one or two.
Yeah, it might be a bit of that, mightn't it, in the second half. 39 gone, 3-0 to Manchester City. And it's with O'Reilly out to the far side, the left. Back infield it goes again to O'Reilly. Marmouche, O'Reilly. City now firmly in control and easing their way through the game. They can offer the opportunity to cruise. Here they know that the game is won and Wembley is in their sights. A few of those Manchester City supporters who haven't turned up here tonight might have already, maybe they stayed at home waiting for the first couple of goals this evening so they could book their hotel rooms and their train travel down to Wembley on the 22nd of March.
Yeah, sure, but there'll be a rail strike, won't there? Penciled in.
I would have thought so, mate. Yeah, either that or Avanti will shut Manchester Piccadilly or something like that. Like they're doing actually in a couple of weeks' time, which is really helpful. But hey, listen, you've got to do the upgrade work.
Indeed.
Sure, if you don't do the rebuilding job, then you don't get a performance like this, do you, eh? Here is, and obviously Marmouche, Semenyo, big parts of that. Reinders, all big parts of the rebuilding job. Here is Ake, just left of the centre circle. Starts to inch forward, gives it infield to Gonzalez, and then back again. Across from O'Reilly into the path of Ake. Out wide it goes to Marmouche, who's got a couple of goals to his name already today. The Egyptian, just happy to hold on to the ball over on the far side. Scored a couple of goals actually at the AFCON with Egypt in Mo Salah's team that didn't quite make it through to the final. Here is Reinders, whose runs from deep have been dangerous. He's trying to take on Botman again. He runs into Botman, who dispossesses him, and then Trippier emerges with the ball at right back, the former Manchester City trainee, Kieran Trippier. And then it goes back to Botman, who looks to try and open up the pitch by sending it out towards the near side, but it wasn't a brilliant ball. And it's going to run out of play and out for a throw-in on this near touchline. It remains 3-0 to Manchester City.
Yeah, it does. As I say, in that build-up, once again, Gordon's much too deep, really. He's got to play a lot higher for me. I think the change might be Valtamada coming off, potentially, and Visser coming on.
Well, it might be that they don't do that because the game's already gone and actually they start thinking about what's happening at the weekend, as you said, and it might be Gordon that they protect.
Yes, yeah, could be that way round.
It's odd, isn't it? Because City's form is not stellar. Only won 4 of the last 10 before tonight. They lost 7 of the last 37, but they've been rampant here. Nouri out to the left, collected by Marmouche, who's on a hat-trick, trying to go down the outside of the penalty area, then comes infield, plays it back to the edge of the box. Nico Gonzalez fancies a shot, and he does that straight at the body of Aaron Ramsdale, who immediately releases down the pitch. But the thing is that, oh dear, I think Anthony Gordon has just pulled up with a hamstring problem.
Oh dear.
It was sent out towards his near side. Kusanov went on a run. I did look at Gordon and think, well, he's not up with Kusanov here. That's a worry. And then he pulled up immediately, tugged the back of his hamstring and looked over at the bench, and now he's gone and sat down. And that is not good news for him. It's not good news for England either, and it's certainly not good news for Newcastle United.
No, indeed. As I say, there was a foot race on. Kusanov had a good 5-yard start on him, so was more than comfortable in retrieving the ball and knocking it back to his goalie. But, as you rightly say, Gordon won't be playing any part in this game.
Well, we talked about the protection, and that isn't going to happen now because the damage has been done, and Harvey Barnes is immediately getting ready to replace Gordon. And anything that has gone wrong for Newcastle United, that could go wrong for Newcastle United tonight, has gone wrong. It's been one of those nights.
It is. It's literally one of those. They've had a couple of deflections that have sort of ended up in the back of the net, or half clearance that's ended up near enough over the line and has been a tap-in. 2 one-on-ones that they've missed. And I know there'll be people out there saying, well, hang on, that's all part of the game. You've got to be clinical at one end and you've got to keep it out the other. I get that, but really, you sort of feel for Newcastle a little bit that they have sort of come out on the wrong end of every 50-50 fortunate decision.
But there will, and we've got a pause in play because we're waiting for Gordon to be replaced by Barnes here, and that now has just happened. 11 for 10. But there will be Newcastle fans that ring the sports bar tonight, and you can do that by ringing 03717 223344, who will be saying there are too many games where when things go against us, we seem to collapse. And they'll point to Saturday's game against Liverpool. And I heard it on the way home, actually, when I was listening to the Sports Bar Weekender with Adam Catterall. I've heard it before in big games where it just got away from them and then they've melted, that they go to a big match like this, they concede the first goal after having a couple of good chances, and then all of a sudden it's got away from them. Marmoush trying to get away from Ramsdale into the penalty area, but the offside flag is up. How would you answer and counter those accusations?
Yeah, to my eye, I wouldn't say that they've absolutely melted and fell apart and dropped off the cliff as such. I wouldn't say that.
But the scoreline says that.
100% the scoreline has. So I can't argue against the scoreline. All I can argue against is what I've seen with my own eyes. And I don't think their performances have merited some of the scorelines they've been up against. Yeah. But saying that, we had another issue there with the players springing in behind their back line, just getting caught offside. They've probably got to defend a little bit more clinically than they actually are.
Well, it's 3-0 and we're into the final minute of the first half. There will be some time allotted at the end of the first 45. It will give an opportunity, I think, for Manchester City also to rest a few going into the... Well, they rested a few tonight, but they'll rest even more, I think, going into the weekend. They might well make some changes at half-time. Ball thrown out by Trafford, who's been pretty useful. He's taken his chance this evening. O'Reilly turns, pushes it forward. Reinders swings the ball out towards the near side. Byrne gets there ahead of Semenyo, and it's going to be 4 added minutes at the end of the first 45 here on Talksport this evening. And remember, when you wake up tomorrow morning, Alan Brazil will be back on breakfast. He was back on breakfast this morning. He texted him over the weekend just to make sure he was all right, because he was off for a couple of days. He said, "Don't you worry, I'll be back on Wednesday." And looking forward to seeing him on Friday. And Gabi Agbonlahor is alongside him tomorrow. That should be fun. Here is O'Reilly, just short of the halfway line. Infield to Nico Gonzalez, and then they're just keeping the ball inside their own half. Literally, it is like walking football at the moment. That everyone's just stopped waiting for the half-time whistle. We've still got 4 minutes, lads. Long way to go yet.
Yeah, I think Newcastle and both teams will be absolutely delighted for the half-time whistle at this moment in time.
Yes. Trippier turns it over onto Willock, forward towards Voltemada. Oh, it's a poor ball out towards Tonali, far side. And they were on the attack down that right-hand side, and then Tonali somehow draws a foul. And Nouri is the guilty party, and it's a free kick just in from the right touchline. This is Talksport. And Newcastle United trying to finish the first half strongly. Warming up a couple of substitutes down in front of us, including Jacob Murphy. Leo Shahar and Sean Neve are out as well. 2 youngsters that have been part of the matchday squad for quite a while now, but yet to make their senior debuts. Trippier's delivery from the free kick in towards Botman, whose header is on target. It's pushed away by Trafford. Well, that's 3 very good chances and 3 very good saves from James Trafford.
Yeah, he's pleased with his work tonight. As I said, it was a really solid header. Great ball in. It was pretty good, but I think Trafford half read it, to be fair to him. Got across the goal, moved the feet, and a good strong parry with both hands.
Now the corner, this time to be taken by Trippier over on the far side. It's low into Lewis Hall, who's at the near post, little back heel. Oh, and it bounced off the arms of Matthias Nunez, and he says that his hands were in to his body there. There was an accusation of handball. The referee is saying he is not giving a penalty, but he will consider the VAR's recommendation here. And Tony Harrington is just delaying the play while they check and make sure that this was not a handball. Stuart Pearce, was it?
For me, probably just not. But there's an argument to say he did have his arm up and slightly away from his body at shoulder height. So the one thing I would say, it's cannoned off his strapped up left wrist, and there didn't seem to be any pain etched on his face. So obviously it's a fashion accessory, like 3 other Manchester City players have all got their hands strapped up.
Yes, it's a new thing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a fashion. It'll disappear next year, but it's a fashion accessory at present.
So has the hopes of a penalty disappeared for Newcastle United. Corner instead. Hall to take it back to Trippier, deep towards the edge of the 6-yard box. Trafford gets slammed into by Voltemada, and Byrne loses control of the ball, but the free kick is given in his favour.
Yeah, Trafford should be pleased with his work tonight. His team are 3-0 up, but he's played a part in that as well, hasn't he? You know, a very important part. It could have been a whole different story otherwise.
Yeah, he's made 3 big saves. And Manchester City lead by 3 big goals on the night. 3 big goals that look as if they're going to send them to Wembley. We're into the 4th added minute at the end of the first 45. It's Talksport. 3-0 to Manchester City, 5-0 on aggregate. James Trafford in good form. Manchester City in good form. In fact, Manchester City are not in cruise control. They're on automatic pilot now. They're closing in on the 9th League Cup final, and Newcastle's mountain is not quite a mountain anymore. It's much bigger than that. It's the north face of the Eiger. 3 goals in the first 45 minutes. Marmoush with 2, Reinders with the other, has given Manchester City an unassailable lead. Newcastle needed the first goal. They didn't get it. Now they need an absolute avalanche in order to level things up. They'll need 5 in the second half to take this to extra time. The impossible task in that first 45 minutes has become the unthinkable. Manchester City 3, Newcastle United 0.
Imagine they do it. Wow. It could easily go the other way, though. 6 years ago in a Carabao Cup semi-final here at the Etihad, Man City belittled Burton Albion 9-0. Newcastle need to be careful tonight to guard against that. And I'm intrigued, Stuart Pearce, by talking about the fine margins. And yes, they have had the bounce of the ball in front of goal. It's, how their goals have come. But before that bounce of the ball, ahead of it hitting the back of the net, they basically run through the midfield or out wide of Newcastle. They've been very weak in the turnovers, Newcastle United, and that's been a big problem for them, and it's because they've got 2 key midfielders missing.
Yeah, it might be down to that. I think from a defensive aspect, they've been a little bit weak on occasion. They've squeezed on and pressed on a full court press, and they've just been caught out on a couple of occasions by players like spinning them short and then spinning long, and they've not had the toe to stay with them or the turning capacity.
A couple of performances I want to talk about. Trafford in goal. I've looked at the saves he's made. There was a 3-on-1 that Newcastle had at 1-0. If that goes in, it's a completely different story. And it should go in, really. Trafford's made a great save at the feet of Joe Willock. There was a Gordon 1-on-1. He made himself big. Trafford. There was the catch from the Trippier free kick. Listen, they're good saves. And there was one towards the end, the header, wasn't there? They're good saves. Kind of saves, a top keeper should make. So can we assume that James Trafford is a top keeper, and he should actually be playing week in, week out for a club?
Well, if a team like Manchester City go in the transfer market and bring him to the club, they're seeing something they like. Either work with his feet that he's extremely good with, or they're seeing more improvement. He was at the club originally, but he's gone away, done well, and there's more improvement to come from him. But he's done really well tonight, and there's pressure on him. You got Donnarumma in the squad who's the number 1 and playing particularly well, and when you get a little bit of a nibble of a game, and chances are he'll probably play in the final as well. So big games for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Voltemada, I make you right. I don't think this was the game for him. They're trying to, they need to hit the ball over, and for a striker, a wizard, to run onto it is probably what they need to be doing. It's lost now. It's all over now. But I wonder if Voltemada generally is the right striker for Newcastle United, given their identity, the way they've played over the years. He is that hold-up player. So I'm not saying he's a bad player. It just feels like a bad fit for Newcastle's identity.
I think they're in a sort of run of games at the moment, and where they are probably with their performances and that type of thing, that they probably need a couple of quick players up and around there. This game definitely, in my opinion, lent itself to that. You know what I mean? Even if you've got 2 quick uns, one comes slightly short to link play, the other one is always on the shoulder. I don't think and I saw Eddie Howe pointing forward to his forward line when they are defending. He's seen it already. They're coming too deep. They're being too genuine, if you like. Coming too deep. You've almost got to say, well, the opposition have got the ball, if you're Gordon, and you just got to drift off and move into an area, and you think, I'm waiting for the turnover, and then I'm gone. And hopefully, that if I was him, I'd probably drift onto the likes of Aki, because he's slightly slower than the other fella.
There was a lovely moment, actually, when Anthony Gordon went off injured, and crikey, Newcastle will be hoping that's not long term, but when he went off injured, Pep went over to him just as he was going down the tunnel. Anthony Gordon held hands with him, consoled him, obviously. It was just a lovely moment. The opposition manager, I know the game is won and it's easy for him to do that, and if they were losing it might be different, but it's just a lovely thing for Pep Guardiola to do, because Anthony Gordon must be in bits.
Yeah, he'll be very frustrated, that he's had to come off in this game, and probably looking forward, missing Newcastle's game, and obviously internationals. It's a big year for a lot of English players, definitely. Yeah,
it is. But Anthony Gordon injured, and that's just one part of the bad news for Newcastle United. They're going out of the semi-final stage. They are 3-0 down here at City at the Etihad. 5-0 on aggregate. It's going to be an Arsenal-Man City final in the Carabao Cup, and we'll have that live on Talksport.
Kick off on Talksport with Ladbrokes. 18+ gambleaware.org. Talksport with Ladbrokes. 18+ gambleaware.org.
This is not just food. This is 100% British, 5% fat beef mince. Now for just £5.20. Hang on, 100% British for £5.20? Down from £6.75? That can't be right. Oh, it says here that this is the Remarksable value range. Over 100 family favourites that are the same M&S quality but at everyday low prices. Well, looks like this is not just food. This is M&S Remarksable value food. Subject to availability.
Most cars are designed for the road. The Mazda CX-30 is designed for you. Our stylish and compact SUV is available with 0% APR when ordered before the 31st of March. Mazda, crafted with Japanese soul. Search Mazda. Available on PCP when financed by Mazda Financial Services by the 30th of June 26. Indemnities may be required. Terms apply. See website.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be inside a bowl of Heinz soup? Floating on a blanket of thick tomatoey goodness. The aromas tickling your nostrils. A crispy little human crouton drifting off, getting lost in the soup. Bathe in comfort. It has to be Heinz.
Nobody knows Vegas like BetMGM, and we know just how loud it can get. So sometimes it's important to turn it down or take a break. Because a little pause keeps the fun in play. To find out more about BetMGM's safer gambling tools and how we can support you to keep your play safe, visit the safer gambling area of our app or website. BetMGM. 18+, please gamble responsibly.
When you switch the family's unlimited plans to Vodafone, you save. So while Nan's learning to voice note,
can you hear this? Is this on?
You're saving. While your daughter's setting a new high score on her favourite game.
Get in!
You're saving. While your son's video calling his crush for 3 hours.
I love you more.
You're saving. Save more when you switch your family's plans to Vodafone with Vodafone Together. Eligible plans from the 30th of October. Credit check and terms apply.
Summer is calling. Book early for your trip to Turkey and get the most out of your holiday. Visit GoTurkey.com now and discover unforgettable experiences. Plan your summer getaway to Turkey today.
Love that feeling when a game just clicks? At Virgin Bet, you'll find all your favourites in one place. Classic casino games and hundreds of the most exciting slots. And it's a good bet you'll love our new member welcome offer. Just join, wager at least £10 on slots within 7 days of signing up and get 100 free spins to get you started. Virgin Bet, a good bet. Use free spins on selected games in 7 days. Value varies. Terms and exclusions apply. 18+. Bet responsibly. Gambleaware.org.
Jim White and Simon Jordan on Talksport. Mid-morning radio that's up for the job.
I'm hot under the collar with this.
Concrete sports talk.
Edge that one in stone.
Rapid setting opinion.
I still think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Oh, no. Come on.
Big names all bagged up.
David Moyes, John Hart's, Ian Rush.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Delivered tomorrow morning from 10 on Talksport by Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com. The football animal is alive.
Kick off live on Talksport.
Now, if you've not seen Deontay Wilder getting angry with Simon Jordan in the Talksport studio, then you need to check it out. Security had to step in. I'm not kidding. They were in the same studio. Security had to step in. It's the first thing you'll be offered when you open up the Talksport app, and it's on the Talksport Boxing YouTube channel as well. And who knows? We get YouTubers and pensioners making fights these days. People pay to see those. Why not Jordan and Wilder lacing them up, getting it on in the ring? If they do, it'll be live on Talksport. I might even pay to be ringside for that one. We've got subs warming up here. Langer, Murphy, Visser coming on for Newcastle, we believe. A couple of the youngsters, Elaine and Makaidu, who scored in the FA Cup against Exeter, could well be coming on for City as well. City 3 up at half-time. They're 5-0 up on aggregate. Let's get the half-time odds with Ladbrokes.
Odds update on Talksport with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
Manchester City are 1,000 to 1 on to win this leg. The draw in 90 is 25 to 1. Newcastle United just to win this leg, 60 to 1. Newcastle to win 5-3 in 90 minutes, 150 to 1. Antoine Semenyo to score any time is 7 to 2. Phil Foden to score from outside the box is 16 to 1. That's the latest odds with Ladbrokes. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
Odds update on Talksport with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
Stuart Pearce, let's talk about Phil Foden and that first half that he had, because we talked about him before the game and how he's not been effective, and Pep maybe didn't trust him, just didn't bring him on against Spurs until very, very late at the weekend. The first 2 touches he had, he gave the ball away tonight, but what do you made of his first 45 minutes here?
Yeah, I think he's been steady away. I wouldn't say he's been one of their star performers, but I certainly think he's been steady away with what I've seen, that is for sure. So he'll be pleased with his contribution. He's played his part in a team that have got their nose in front and very comfortable.
And you talked about the expectations of him from us, maybe from the club, from the Man City fans, from England fans as well. But I think it's expectations he will have of himself. Now, he can't be guaranteed, I don't think he can be guaranteed even a place in the England squad, never mind the England team. So does he have to put in consistently good performances between now and the end of the season to make sure he gets into that England World Cup squad?
I think that's a personal pride thing. You want to do that. If you think that Phil Foden is happy just to go to a World Cup and be a sub that's used every now and then, you'll be deluded. I'll be really disappointed if any player goes to the World Cup, gets into a squad to go to a World Cup and thinks, well, it's just good to be at a World Cup. They're internally driven, these players, and he'll want to play a big part and be a major player in a team that's going to lift silverware, I would suspect.
Yeah, it's interesting, but the way the Premier League is going and the way the coaching is going, the way performances are going, you'd think actually, there's quite a bit of an organisation. Maybe some people would call it overcoaching, but actually Monday night I was at Sunderland watching them beat Burnley 3-0. Enzo Lefebvre was magical. I mean, a maverick, but there was end product. There was meaning to purpose to what he did, and he was a joy, a pure joy to watch, worth the entrance fee alone. And then last night I thought João Pedro was probably the best player on the pitch, and he was kind of playing a 9/10, almost a false 9, if you like. And I was really impressed with his touch, his movement, his speed of thought, his speed of feet. And I've got 2 players there, and I'm thinking, well, Phil Foden, similar kinds of player, can play in that, number 10, even as a false 9 as well. But the kind of player, dynamic, who can make things happen, bit of magic as well. So the stage is there for him. It's not like he's being restricted in this current climate of football.
No, he's not being restricted. I think he's playing for a manager that certainly can be accused of very few things, and one of them isn't restricting his players, I don't think.
No, absolutely spot on. By the way, there are gaps. The guys pointed out in commentary in the first half. There are big gaps, actually, in the crowd. A friend of mine who's got a box virtually opposite us under where it says there's only one Ricky Hatton, and obviously the late Ricky Hatton had a box there. My mate's box is next to his. He said he was disappointed with the crowd, and he's like one of these who stands up for City no matter what. And he says that no reduction in the prices is probably one of the big reasons why, with them being 2-0 up, and maybe a lot of fans thought the tie was over, you'd still come along and applaud your team for getting to Wembley, surely. But it is a disappointment, I think, for a lot of City fans that they haven't managed to fill the ground tonight. When you were here as player and as manager, Stuart, was that a problem that they couldn't fill the ground? Did you always feel that this wasn't a well-supported club or not?
No, to be fair, this is a club that playing in the second division, we're getting 28,000 people, you know. It's an incredible fan base Manchester City have always had. We always got them in the crowd, we always filled it up, but to be fair, they were normally desperate to go home after 15 minutes when I was in charge. We had to lock the doors, keep them in.
Dear. My mate Simon also messaged me halfway through that when it went 3-0 actually, and said, Haaland, £250 million, anyone? They're ready to sell because Marmoush has got a couple of goals. Well, we'll see what happens with Erling Haaland. He might be sitting there thinking, why am I not playing in this? Could have filled my boots tonight, got some confidence up, taken that into the Premier League in the forthcoming games. But not to be. And a very quick one, actually. We saw that banner. I mentioned the banner before the game, and the slogan was, club motto, Pride in Battle. And your story about that is?
Well, I joined the club, when did I come here? 2001, I think it was, as a player. And then when I went into management, we had no personality at the training ground. No pictures, no slogans, no anything. So I looked at the club badge, and the club motto in Latin is Superblia something or other. And I asked everybody, you know, the chairman, everybody, what does that mean? No one knew. And I looked it up, and that's where Pride in Battle come from. And from that moment on, they used Pride in Battle, the translation of.
I'm amazed that you, mastermind, didn't actually know without having to look it up. Incredible.
And I was pleased with just looking it up, you know.
Pride in Battle is what Newcastle United need to show in this second half. They're 3 down on the night. They're 5 down on aggregate. They're about to lose this semi-final. City are on their way to Wembley. Second half, live on Talksport with former England captain Stuart Pearce alongside Sam Atface.
Joe Willock, Nick Voltemade and Lewis Hall have been withdrawn, in addition to Anthony Gordon, who came off injured in the first half. Barnes came on for him. Anthony Elanga, Johan Wissa and Jacob Murphy are on, with Newcastle 5-0 down on aggregate, 3-0 down on the night. One change for Manchester City. Nathan Ake has come off and Max Allain is on in his place. So, and that is the change in personnel. And interesting, you were talking about the empty seats and the amount of free spaces inside the stadium. There's might be a suggestion that maybe one or two might not fill their seat in the second half. That's raise the question about the extension to the stadium. Oh, that's a mistake by Kusanov, and then Wissa is through and he puts the ball wide of the goal. Well, again, Newcastle United have a big chance, releasing Johan Wissa after a mistake by Abdelkader Kusanov. A ball that was short to O'Reilly. Tonali sent it on to Wissa. God knows where he was trying to put that, because it was going well wide of goal. From the minute he left his foot, he just miscued it, Stuart.
I've got to say, that's 3 one-on-ones Newcastle have had now. You can make an excuse, they've been unfortunate with a couple of bounces of deflections. That was an horrific miss. It really was poor. He's opened his body up, you thought, brilliant, you're curling it around the goalie, I can see what you're doing. But he's got it so wrong. I mean, he's missed by the width of a goal as well.
Yeah, it was a poor miss. I was about to raise the question about the wisdom of the extending the capacity here, because away to our left in the North Stand, there is another tier that is about to open. They've built on top of the middle tier away to our left-hand side, and they're going to try and extend the stadium even further. This stadium that already holds 53,000, it'll take it up to in the region of 60. Once that is finished. But it hasn't been able to fully populate it on a regular enough basis. Against Galatasaray, I was told at half-time, actually there were a few issues in that regard as well. The ball is on the halfway line with Nico Gonzalez as Manchester City look to further their lead. And these two met in the League Cup final once upon a time. The year was 1976. ABBA were about to release Dancing Queen. The Sex Pistols released Anarchy in the UK. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak had just founded Apple, and Manchester City beat Newcastle United by 2-1. Peter Barnes and Dennis Stewart with the goals. Dennis Stewart filled the cup afterwards with a load of champagne and took it into the Newcastle dressing room to share a drink with the losers after the match. Who do you think of the Newcastle squad had the first sip?
Super Mac.
It was indeed Super Mac. It was the first one to drink out of the cup. 50 years later, these two clubs meet again in the semi-final, and the script follows as it should, and it will be Manchester City who go through triumphant again. They lead by 3-0. Here is Nico Gonzalez. A little collision with Elanga and Aït-Nouri on the near side. If you're a Newcastle United player in these circumstances, there's not much chance that you're going to turn it round. So what is your job here? Is it to turn around and show the manager just how much of a contribution you're prepared to make?
Yeah, personal pride kicks in. You know, you're trying to... You should draw a line under that first half performance and the first leg performance, really, and score line, and just say, right, we need to go and win the second half. End of.
You just wonder what the sort of Newcastle fans will be thinking high up in the South Stand away to our right in the top tier there. I can't actually, where we are, because of the proximity of the middle tier coming up over our heads, we can't actually see up into where they're sitting away to our right-hand side. I can't see if they've all come back for the second half, but there were 5,400 of them here tonight. Here's Omar Marmoush travelling centrally, playing the ball out to the wide right position. Nico Gonzalez tries to take it down the right touchline. It goes back in field to Phil Foden, and then he sends it across to Nico O'Reilly. And then infield to Reinders, back to goal, across to O'Reilly again. Newcastle banked up on the edge of their penalty area. Murphy playing left wing back, I think, in this second half, which is an interesting choice. But with Kusanov on halfway, and Newcastle just allowing Manchester City to have the ball in front of them, but it remains 3-0.
Yeah, I wonder whether him taking Hall off was one of those I definitely can't afford to lose him for the weekend mentality.
Absolutely. And you can understand that because he's been so good for them.
Yeah, he's been on good, decent form.
Here is Marmoush, who's only ever got one hat-trick before for Manchester City. Guess who that was against?
Newcastle.
Yes, it was, yes. 15th of February 2025. Just short of a year ago this week. And he's looking for another one. Elanga trying to get down the side, looking to beat Max Alleyne for speed. He goes down the right. Max Alleyne does brilliantly, having been recalled to help out an injury crisis from Watford in January. Blocks that, goes out of play, and it's away for a corner kick to our right-hand side. And we welcome listeners from Sirius XMFC joining us from the United States and Canada tonight. Thank you very much for lending us your ears. We'll be coming to see you in the not-too-distant future. We're heading out for the World Cup warm-up games, aren't we? We're all going out there to watch England build up to the World Cup, and then we'll bring you every game of the World Cup on Talksport, Talksport 2 and the Talksport app. 104 games. Ball in towards the near post from Tonali from the corner, easily clasped from the sky by James Trafford, away to our right-hand side. 03717 223344. The Sports Bar open for business tonight, straight after we finish here. I think we're going to get some angry Newcastle calls from what I've been seeing on social media over the last little while. But the Newcastle fans, with a bit of gallows humour away to our right, are singing, we're going to win 6-5. I think like a bit of optimism. Semenyo takes it off of Elanga, whose challenge actually was a little bit half-hearted. It worked out towards the wide right, and Omar Marmoush trying to send the ball into a dangerous area. It actually was put into a dangerous area by Omar Marmoush, but there wasn't anybody else in sky blue to finish it off. Goes out for a goal kick. Ramsdale to take it. Newcastle haven't won here in the Premier League since April 1994. 32 years ago was the last time they won away at Manchester City. They've never won in this stadium in the league football. And they did win here in the Carabao Cup under Alan Pardew, Talksport's Alan Pardew, October 2014. Rolando Aarons, whatever happened to him? And Moussa Sissoko scored the goals that night. Here's Abdulkadir Kusanov taking 4 steps forward through the middle of the centre circle, feeding Nico Gonzalez, and goes back to O'Reilly, and then all the way through to Max Alleyne. 3-0 the score. Matías Núñez taking the ball over halfway, trundling forward, feeding it out towards Semenyo. Semenyo comes back into the Portuguese, who walks forward at a walking pace. The atmosphere has gone out of the stadium. There's been a couple of times when Pep Guardiola was trying to rev it up in the first half, but it's completely gone now. Reinders might well try to instigate something here as he goes down the left-hand side, collides with Botman, looks for a penalty. Referee says no chance, and it's cleared away.
Yeah, good run there by Reinders.
He's a willing runner, isn't he? Gets forward into advanced positions, comes in off that left-hand side into the inside channel, and has caused a few issues for Newcastle, who are looking to go over the top here to Elanga. Ball rushed forward by Byrne all the way through to Trafford, away to our right-hand side. It does feel like the air has gone out of the room, doesn't it, a little bit in here? A few people just going off to get their little half-time refreshments, come back with a pie or two. If you sit in the Tunnel Club, you can press a little button and someone will come out and give you a tray of drinks. Trafford kicks it clear. Botman will win the header. It's loose in the Manchester City half, and the header's won by Gonzalez, and he releases Semenyo down the right-hand side. Already managed 4 goals in his 5 games. He pokes it through the centre, looking to release Reinders again, and it's cut out by Botman, and then Murphy brings it up to the halfway line, and Harvey Barnes. In fairness, history was against Newcastle from the start. No team has ever overturned a 2-goal deficit from the first leg in a League Cup semi-final. The closest was Aston Villa in 1994. They beat Tranmere 5-4 in aggregate after losing 3-1 away in the first leg. But a home leg defeat in the first leg never generates optimism. There have been big comebacks that we've been surprised with. Barcelona overturned a 4-0 Champions League deficit against PSG in 2017. You remember that one? La Remontada, they called it. Liverpool came back from 3-0 down against Barcelona to beat them 4-3 on aggregate in 2019. I think we're clutching at straws if we think that's going to happen tonight. Here's Elanga into the box, away by Kusanov. And then all the way back towards Chiao, almost gets himself tied in a knot. He ended up kicking out at Marmouche. He was trying to win the ball.
I thought Chiao, when he early season, looked in really good form, you know, and the Toon fans really liked him. He looked a little bit shaky as of recent weeks.
Well, there's a mistake inside the penalty area, and down goes Johan Wissa. He says he was pulled to the floor by Max Elaine. Eddie Howe and his coaching staff going absolutely balmy on the near touchline.
Yeah, in true style of nothing's going your way, there was another penalty call.
Here is Marmouche into the penalty area, brings the ball down, comes inside Trippier, moves towards the edge of the box, sees it back for Reinders, who slides it wide. What a miss. That should have been 4. And 6 on aggregate. Now, there is a delay here while they look back at that penalty decision. Tony Harrington just consulting with his VAR. Not sure whether or not that anything's going to change. Nothing's gone Newcastle's way tonight. But that was a big miss, actually. Reinders probably should have finished that.
It certainly was. And once again, that ball into the inside sort of left channel of Newcastle is causing them a big problem.
They are checking a possible penalty foul here. It has come up on the big screen. So it may well be. Well, it was miscontrolled by Max Elaine inside the penalty area. Wissa got his body behind the ball. And no foul, according to the VAR. I mean, he used his body to shield the ball. Did Max Elaine pull him down?
Not for me, no. I don't think there was enough in it. I think if Wissa would have stayed on his feet and dealt with the ball, Elaine would have had to attempt to make some sort of physical challenge from behind to stop him, because he's in on goal again, but he seemed to lose his own footing, really, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, Rolando Aarons, by the way, I'm reliably informed by Adrian Durham, is now at Morecambe in the National League, and they're third bottom. So when I said Rolando Aarons, whatever happened to him, Adrian answered. Yes, I know, he has to get out a lot more. Here is Nico O'Reilly into Marmouche. A square ball out to the right-hand side, where it's collected by the aggressive right full-back Matthias Nunez. I was looking at his positions actually that he's played over the last year or so. In fact, he hasn't played anything but right back since late 2024. He's almost become that position now, Matthias Nunez. Pep Guardiola did have a sort of a little swipe at him maybe 6-7 months ago when he said he didn't think he could play in midfield in the Premier League, and right back was probably going to have to be his position. Certainly has become that. Oh, Malik Chow again, not able to deal with the ball. He has managed to get away from Reinders. He plays it against O'Reilly, and it bounces out for a throw-in in the right full-back position. It's 3-0 on the night in favour of Manchester City, and it's 5-0 on aggregate. We've nearly played the hour, and the Newcastle fans still in fine voice away to our right-hand side trying to lift their team.
Yeah, and at this stage, the trophy lift of last year seems a distant memory, doesn't it, for Newcastle?
Well, that is going to be the talking point, I think, when it comes to tonight. I do think there's going to be a lot of discussion about this team, whether or not it's equipped to compete in the manner with which Newcastle want to compete. You know, all this talk about by 2030 they want to be challenging for the top prizes in global football. Well, they're going to need a lot of investment, a lot of change to the squad depth, and a lot more ambition if they're going to be able to fulfil those promises. Here on the right side, the ball is with Nico Gonzalez. I mean, the problem is that what happens when you get into these situations? I think Newcastle probably over the last few years, go back 4 of them, and you fighting relegation, and he walks through the door, Eddie Howe, and he manages to drag them to a position where they stay in the league, and then, you know, the year after that they're in the qualifying for the Champions League, and the year after that they're playing Champions League, and then they win a cup, they go to a cup final, then they win a cup final, and they're in the Champions League again. But all of a sudden, when you get to this sort of stage and it's not working for you, the guns come out and they start to point in his direction. I think that would probably be a little bit unfair.
Yeah, it is. As I say, you know, 1 or 2 of his new signings probably haven't hit it off. I think I've been a bit disappointed with Elanga. I thought Elanga might be a really good fit here, you know, with his pace, his counter-attack threat that he demonstrated for Forest, but no.
It's amazing, really, isn't it? Because he had his best season last year for goals and assists at Nottingham Forest, but he's had a really poor time of it. He hasn't scored for Newcastle United. He hasn't been able to find his groove, and actually there's some of the statistics suggesting that, you know, he's getting into positions where he's giving the ball away more than he's managing to keep his team in possession.
Yeah, as I say, you picked up on a sort of challenge that he put in earlier, and it wasn't convincing whatsoever. I know that's not part of his game or his forte, but you've got to at least challenge for the ball.
Botman keeping the ball alive on the edge of the area. Comes back to Malik Chow with a volley from the edge of the box, which goes well wide. And it was a brief Newcastle threat, and it was one that petered out very quickly when the ball was tossed to the edge of the box, landed at the feet of Malik Chow, and he scissor kicked the ball goalwards, and it's out for a goal kick away to our right. 61 minutes on the clock. It's 3-0 to Manchester City, 5-0 on aggregate. I wonder whether or not we might see some of the youngsters come on tonight, the likes of Ryan Makado and Sverri Nipan, who they bought in from Rosenborg in Norway, Manchester City, and there was a lot of competition for his signature, the left winger. He's been on loan at Middlesbrough this season and may well get an opportunity tonight to make a Manchester City debut. Ball out wide on the left for Newcastle United to come forward with Jacob Murphy. Now Barnes takes over. A little click of the heels to take him into a left wing position. He's got support from Jacob Ramsey, who's now got it wide on the left. Infield it goes. And Murphy then works it wide towards the right hand side. Into Ramsey, who comes forward, plays it into Visa, doesn't quite work for him. Tonali wins it against Marmoush, and now it's on to Trippier down the right into Elanga looking to take on Ait Nouri. Reinders comes across to do a job for his team. Chow's got it again. Now Elanga down the right side, trying to squeeze between 2 defenders. He does that, gets into the area, cuts on his left foot, in towards the far post, hits the inside of the post and goes in. Anthony Elanga has his first Newcastle United goal, and Newcastle United are on the scoreboard. It's 3-1 on the night, 5-1 on aggregate, and one of the substitutes comes off the bench to put Newcastle on the board.
Well, that's exactly what we're expecting from Elanga, probably back in August, to be fair. The contribution, brilliant run, darted inside two players, cut inside, opened the goal up with his left foot and found the far corner. Wonderful goal, nothing Trafford could do about that.
It's a really good shot, actually. Getting onto his left foot, cutting in. It's so tight towards the far post that it kisses the inside of the upright and goes in. And Newcastle United at least give their fans something to cheer about. They have half an hour to find 4 goals, Stuart.
Yeah, they do, and the game's almost criminal. I remember, I think it was 3 weeks ago, wasn't it, the first leg of this, and I was watching the game in David's Pirate Bar, believe it or not, in Barbados at the Beachview Villas, and David himself is an actual Toon fan.
Oh.
And Pirate, exactly, yeah. He... with a black beard, actually, and pieces of 8 you had to pay for your drinks with. But anyway, let's move on from there.
Okay, because this story's thinking.
When the second goal went in, I thought, well, that has killed Newcastle totally. But what's killed them tonight is probably all the one-on-ones that they've missed, you know? Sorry to waffle on a little bit.
It was great. No, it filled a couple of minutes. Kept us anchored. Here is Murphy over on the far side. Oh, we're sailing close to the wind tonight. Here is Murphy again, dancing down the left-hand side, looking to outwit Nunez. He manages to get the ball off him, steers it back to Barnes, and then it's a free kick in the right full-back position.
Yeah, nearly got in trouble there. Looked as though he was walking the plank for one moment.
Oh, dear. Well, we've had fun. Well, sometimes we think that's more important.
You've got to get through the game. But listen, Manchester City are in complete control at the moment. There's no doubt about that.
But Newcastle have just given themselves a little bit of something, which is good.
Yeah, we thought this was be a better sort of clash, but it's certainly not turned out that way.
Here is Byrne with a header away. Ramsey out on the far side, and he finds Murphy in the left fullback position, tries to keep things alive. And Eddie Howe is renowned for achieving the impossible. Twice saved Bournemouth from relegation, guided them from League 2 to the Premier League. He repeated his success at Newcastle, transforming them into Champions League contenders and securing their first trophy in 56 years. He's led Newcastle to 2 of the last 3 League Cup finals. He was the first English manager to win a major trophy since Harry Redknapp in 2008. But tonight, maybe beyond even his capabilities, would be a stellar comeback if they managed it from here. Here's Ramsey trying to give them hope. Out to Trippier, and then on to Elanga. Elanga taking on Elaine. He gets to the byline. Elaine robs him of possession. Reinders takes over. A foul is given against Ramsey, and it's going to be a free kick deep inside Manchester City territory. Are quite happy to try and slow the game down there.
Yeah, as I say, Elanga just picked the ball up there, showed real endeavour, and then there was a sort of challenge at the end of it where you think, go on, you know, fight for that ball, get it off him, and sort of tailored off a little bit.
Rodri's gone out to warm up away to our left-hand side. He literally put on his bib, walked out, did about 3 steps and then came back. Erling Haaland, I think, might well be coming on. Ryan Cherky is coming on. Ball is cleared upfield by Trafford. It goes all the way down the left side of the pitch and into the arms of Aaron Ramsdale. Pep Guardiola has won 4 League Cups, the joint most ever. Manchester City have won 8 of them. Only Liverpool have won more. They've won 6 of the last 12. They've won their last 6 semi-final ties. This is their competition. It is their stadium, and at the moment it is their night.
Yeah, they're in full control of this one for sure.
Chow has it on the edge of the 18-yard box for Newcastle United, who trail by 3 goals to 1, 5-1 on aggregate. Back to Sven Botman, square to Ramsdale, who's on the left side of his area. Back to Botman again. Rodri ready to come on the touchline. Cherky getting ready as well. It's out to Elanga from Trippier, and the chance to run into behind for Wiese, who looked to be offside here, and he steered it centrally to Barnes, who definitely was offside. He finished it, puts it in the corner, and the offside flag goes up. Well, it looked to me like it was offside right from the beginning of the move, Stuart. I mean, I'm happy to be proved wrong, but I think that will be scrubbed off.
Well, it did. I thought they were over-elaborating too much, Newcastle, with the Manchester City backline banked up really, really high. And there's so much room in behind, you've no need to run offside.
Well, Whistle was the one who ran offside clearly right from the very off. It was completely unnecessary for him to do so. And they've wasted a good chance there to get in behind the back line. Here is Marmouche getting the ball back to Aït-Nouri on the near side. And it's just maybe just a case of being over-eager and just being a little bit negligent, just not to check your shoulder at that moment, because you've got to understand, you've got to scan and know where everybody is, haven't you?
Yeah, you certainly have. It's timing of the run, and once the run doesn't work and you know you drift offside, put the brakes on, recover back to an onside position and spin again.
Here is Elanga, just short of the halfway line, back to Trippier and then all the way back to Ramsdale. Ramsdale nudges it forward and it's on to Sven Botman, Rodri, Cherki and Haaland. 3 changes. You imagine being 5-1 down in a cup semi-final and then your opponent brings on Rodri, Cherki and Haaland. I mean, that really probably should be illegal.
What, are you suggesting they should bring them on for Newcastle?
Yeah, switch over. Give us a chance, fellas. Ball back with Ramsdale away to our left-hand side. He gives it to Chow, and that's a poor ball into O'Reilly, and now Foden is free on the edge of the area. His back heel to Semenyo doesn't come off, and that's fortunate for Newcastle United, because that could have been another killer blow. Burn powers forward, square ball into Tonali. Worcester has made a run down the right, but it's gone to Barnes on the left. Elanga waiting in the centre. It's Anthony Elanga. He's missed from 8 yards out. What a golden chance for a second goal of the night for Anthony Elanga. How on earth has he not hit the target, Stuart Pearce?
Well, when I get the words, I'll tell you exactly how he's missed. Incredible. I cannot believe a team that are 3-1 down on the night, 5-1 down on aggregate, have squandered so many chances. And if you hadn't seen this game, you just wouldn't believe it. Slightly behind him, maybe, if I'm trying to help him out a little bit here. But you should be scoring there. He's opened his body up to slide it inside foot and just opened his foot up just too much. And I've got to say, they've probably had, at this stage, 4/5 one-on-ones with the goalkeeper, Sam.
Well, Willock had a one-on-one, missed it. Gordon had a one-on-one, missed it. Gordon had another chance, missed it. Botman had a header that was saved in the top corner by Trafford. Viscera's missed an absolute golden chance when he went through at the beginning of the second half. Elanga's missed an absolute sitter there. And they've had enough chances to be level in the game.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's 3-1 on the night, and I'll be interested to see what the XG is of this game. It could be quite alarming, quite high, I would suspect.
Semenyo, Gonzalez and O'Reilly off. Cherki, Haaland and Rodri are on. They are the changes for Manchester City as we go into the final 20 minutes of the game. Let's do a deep dive into that and see if we can find that out. Here's Haaland, he's on. He hasn't scored for a little while, has he? I mean, it's been a bit sticky for him. And he has scored just once against Newcastle in 8 appearances for City. That was way back in August 2022. Something of a bogey side for the big Norwegian, although everyone seems to be right now. He's got 27 goals in his last 34 games as Erling Haaland this season. But only 1 in his last 7 and 2 in his last 11. And in fact, one of those was a penalty as well. So he hasn't been at his very best.
No, to be honest with you, if he is at his very best, this game's crying out for a clinical finisher, it's fair to say.
Foden has come off as well. It wasn't Nico Gonzalez who came off, it was Phil Foden instead. So there we are. 4 changes already tonight for Manchester City. And Elanga is going through again here, and there's a mistake by Aït-Nouri, who turns around and says, "Excuse me, I've had to work hard to put that over the bar." Where's the offside flag? Eventually it comes.
Yeah, well, to be fair, you wouldn't know whether that was a clearance or a shot by a Newcastle player at this moment in time.
So they've had 40% of the possession, 9 shots, 4 on target so far tonight, Newcastle United. And Manchester City have 13 shots, 6 on target so far this evening. Chow almost gives the ball away again. Right on the edge of his own penalty area. Didn't quite work out. And it's cleared away, and then they give it away again. Ramsdale. Crikey.
Both teams are playing as though, look, the result don't matter anymore. So they're taking chances in really bad areas, not going at it full tilt, I've got to say, and that's creating chances.
Dundee United leading Hibernian by 2-1. Hibs trying to get into the top half of the table. So are Dundee United before the split in the SPL. Here's Trippier forward towards Elanga and Visa on the edge of the area. Both of them miss it, and it's cleared away by Nunez on the other side. Collected by Rodri. Back to his goalkeeper Trafford. The expected goals total 1.56 for Manchester City, 1.22 for Newcastle United. Livingston 1, Falkirk 2, and Rangers 4, Kilmarnock 1. Aberdeen Celtic was postponed tonight. Rangers go up into second above Celtic as a result of that. They're 3 points behind Hearts after their defeat yesterday, the top of the table. Will Asula about to come on for Newcastle United. 16 minutes to go. You never know, there might be the greatest comeback in Carabao Cup history on the cards in the next 16 minutes. It might not be, but you never know.
This could be, if Asula comes on, another attacking option. The 3 attacking players have already come on, haven't they? So I can't see one of them going off. So this will be interesting to see.
Do they take off? I think they might take off a central defender.
Yeah.
Up
it could be this one.
Marmouche. Chow gets it back to his goalkeeper. Meow. Ramsdale.
Not been his best night, I don't think.
No. Ramsdale has it on the edge of the centre circle. Ramsey takes over under pressure from Gonzalez. He's given the ball away, and I'm not entirely sure that Marmouche should be denied here. He's put it in the back of the net. The referee blew the whistle already, so it's not going to be going to VAR, but I'm not sure that was a foul, Stuart Pearce, on Jacob Ramsey, who just wandered into trouble.
Whether it was or wasn't, why are you fronting a player up with no cover behind you and then turning away from him and getting involved in contact, trying to play your way out of trouble in an area that if you do lose the ball, well, we've just seen it's ended up in the back of the net.
Well, City have had a habit of getting themselves into trouble after the hour mark in the second half of games in the last few weeks. We saw it at Tottenham Hotspur on Sunday when we were there for Game Day Live. And Newcastle have certainly got something on the scoreboard tonight. Listen, they're not going to get another 4 goals. It's beyond fantasy to expect that to happen. But they've just sort of faded a little bit, Manchester City. Not something they're going to be able to afford to do when they go to Liverpool on Sunday. We've seen enough from Manchester City to suggest, the ruthlessness of the finishing and the slick, quick football in that first half, the way they moved the ball from front to back, caught Newcastle out 3 times in the first half hour of this game. It was terrific. Is there enough about them that they can challenge Arsenal for the title, or do you think that's done and dusted?
I've said for a while, no. I don't think there's a consistency in their performance, let alone the results, the performances, to suggest they can go on a run of winning the next 14 games.
They probably have to win every game.
Exactly. Impossible.
Yeah. If they do win every game, by the way, before now and the end of the season, the last game of the season, they'll go into the final day just 3 points behind Arsenal. If both teams win every game apart from that one that they're playing against each other. Reinders trying to nudge the ball back to Cherki. Lovely little turn, but it's cleared away by Ramsey. Rodri slides the ball into Cherki again. Manchester City in possession with 13 minutes to go.
Yeah, as I say, both teams just playing sort of not fully at it at the moment is probably how I would view it. It's sort of one of those performances, if you're a manager, when you get them both into the dressing room afterwards, if it was half time, you would say, hey, come on now, there's a game here to be won, but One team have won it and the other one have way off it.
And you can understand why Manchester City are not overextending themselves.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, they've earned the right to play as they are.
A bit of pullback on Tonali by Gonzalez over on the far side, and that's going to be a free kick to Newcastle United. And Tony Harrington said, could you please just wait while I book Nico Gonzalez, so don't start that if you wouldn't mind. And Gonzalez goes into the referee's notebook for unsporting behaviour. Free kick on the edge of the box away to our left. 3-1 on the night. It's 5-1 on aggregate to Manchester City. Wherever you're listening to us tonight, thank you very much for sticking with us. And it has been a game which has been, it must admit, it has been pretty entertaining. I mean, apart from the last maybe 10-15 minutes, it's been pretty entertaining, the match, hasn't it?
Oh, it has. There's been so much action at both ends of the game, from sort of start to finish in many ways. But the sad indictment of it is an outcome. It's not been great. It's been an exciting book, but you knew the finish.
Yeah. Maybe there might be a late twist in the final chapter. You never know. Gonzalez. Back to Max Alain. Pep's a little bit upset. He obviously doesn't like the way this chapter is being written. It's meandering towards a conclusion.
Yeah, as I say, he's doing exactly that. He's ticking along, and I don't think Pep, whilst he'll enjoy the result, I think he likes a performance to go with every result.
They've got, this is the first of 4 of home games in the next 5 fixtures for Manchester City. And Brentford here, Tottenham away, Aston Villa, Liverpool away, then Fulham at home, Salford at home, and Newcastle at home. That's their next games. And that Newcastle game is live on Talksport at 8 o'clock in a couple of Saturdays' time. Newcastle have got Brentford, Tottenham, Aston Villa, and then away at Manchester City. They've got 3 away games in a row coming up. Here is Haaland onto Marmoush. Marmoush left side of the area. Chance to get a hat-trick. Spoons it over the top of the crossbar. Got right underneath it. Elevated it high into the north stand. And it's out for a goal kick away to our left. That was a big chance.
That was a very good chance, to be fair. Good set-up play in through Haaland, unselfishly to Marmoush, and he's moved it onto his left foot and just leant back and skied it.
Well, Pep Guardiola won't be having to go at any VARs or referees tonight, will he? And he was a little bit upset about that the weekend. He thought that Mark Gay was fouled as Dominic Solanke scored his goal at the weekend. Rodri came out with a couple of comments and said that referees have got to be neutral after that match. He was criticising the decision to allow Tottenham's first goal on Sunday. And they failed to close the gap on Arsenal as a result of dropping 2 points at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But that big fixture on Sunday is going to be key for them. Newcastle have a free kick on the halfway line. It's to be taken by Sandro Tonali. He's placed it down, looks up. There's a huge back line, all joining the attack for Newcastle, including Dan Burn. It's up towards Botman. It bounces all the way through to Elanga. Back through the middle. It goes through the 6-yard box, and again, there's no one to steer it home. Well, they can't have too many more chances and not score another goal, Newcastle United, because I make that 5 golden opportunities to score a goal tonight that they haven't converted, Stuart Pearce.
It's been unbelievable. As I say, panic setting in the back line. Elanga's kept it alive, good recycling, and it's just beaten everyone. And I think it's Kusanov just at the back post edged out Visser as it come across the face of goal.
Now, is that unfortunate, or is that a lack of clinical finishing, a lack of ruthlessness?
Well, Elanga's not hit the target, but if you're going to put it across the face of goal, if I'm being double critical,
Elanga unleashed a shot which takes a deflection into the air, grabbed by Trafford.
I would say don't put as much pace on it as he actually did, because it didn't give chance of Visser to get across there and get on the end of it. But they haven't done a lot wrong in that attack, I've got to say.
Gonzalez. winning it in midfield. Reinders back to Rodri, now on to Ryan Cherky, who's been so impressive since joining the club. He releases Haaland, who's going through the middle. His left-footed shot saved brilliantly by Ramsdale down to his left, and he still can't score against Newcastle United. It's been 3.5 years since he last did, and that was a golden opportunity. He looked a racing certainty as he sprinted away from the Newcastle defence, and the gap opened up right in the middle of the park. He went careering through it. He was faced up one-on-one with Ramsdale. He looked for the bottom corner. He drew his left foot across the ball, and it was steered away by the big goalie.
I'll tell you what a clinical attack that was. Just looking at that again, he's decided to go across the goalie. I'm wondering whether the near post little fader with a curler would have borne fruit for him, but listen, who am I to tell Haaland how to finish?
Rico Lewis is on for the home team, sub number 5 complete, and he replaces Nico Gonzalez and goes into the centre of midfield. Reinders out towards the far side, and then it's picked up over on that far side by Cherky as they take a short corner. It goes into Reinders again. Challenge comes in from Murphy on the edge of the area, trying to stab it clear. Obviously a lot of aggression, intensity has gone out of the game in the second half. Once Manchester City established that 3-goal lead, it was always going to be tricky for Newcastle. Here is Rodri. We'll try and speak to both managers for you live in the sports bar tonight. Looking forward to that. It's a foul by Wissa on Reinders. That's going to be a free kick on the halfway line. Just looking at Newcastle United's Etihad curse. Right, their last away win, 2-0 in the League Cup in October 2014. It's 11 years ago. I mentioned the goal scorers under Alan Pardew earlier. That was the last time that Newcastle scored 2 goals at this ground. Since then, Newcastle at the Etihad, 11 straight defeats, 40 goals conceded. It's now going to be 12 straight defeats, 40 goals conceded, 4 goals scored, and 1 goal scored under Eddie Howe. And Manchester City about to win their last 12 home games against Newcastle United. Here is Aït-Nouri down the left, pushed in the back by Murphy. It's a free kick on the wide left position.
Yeah, those stats that are not good reading for the Toon followers.
Begs the question why 5,400 of them came, really, doesn't it, Paul? I feel a bit sorry for them. Free kick on this near side to be taken by Ryan Cherky. Manchester City, the 8-time League Cup winners. 1970, 76, 2014, 2016, 18, 19, 20, 21. Is it going to be 2026 as well? They'll take on Arsenal on March the 22nd. Here is the corner to be taken by the free kick, a bit like a short hockey corner from Cherky towards that near post, and Haaland had made the movement to get in front of the defence and try and just ghost across Ramsdale's path. He didn't connect with it, and the England goalkeeper gobbles it up.
Yeah, just left himself too much to do there, whipped in. Ramsdale kept his eye on it, but any touches, no reaction time at all.
Pep's won 4 League Cups. 3 other managers have won 4 League Cups. Do you know who they are?
Is Brian Clough one of them?
He is. Here is Cherky running towards the edge of the area, coming on his left foot, teeing it up for Haaland, whose right-footed shot parried away down low to his left by Ramsdale. Just bobbled up in front of Haaland. He hammered it towards the far corner. Ramsdale was down and he shoveled it wide and out for a corner.
Yeah, good save there, but Haaland showing great striker's instinct, played into him, sets it with his left foot, good feet, and then the shot's away before the defender can get set again.
The other 2 then, so Pep Guardiola 4, Brian Clough 4.
Bob Paisley?
Nope.
Alex Ferguson wouldn't have been, I'm convinced. I can't remember.
He is.
He is?
Yeah, he's in that list.
Wow.
Here is the corner. Cherky, you need one more. Into Reinders, back to Cherky again. Cherky trying to go down the right side of the box, comes to the edge of the area. Rico Lewis shovels it into the path of Aït-Nouri, and then Rodri tries to connect with it. It's pushed away by Ramsdale, but he gobbles it up.
Kenny Dalglish?
Nope. More recent than that, actually.
Oh, Jurgen?
Nope. Bit further back than that, maybe. Someone who's managed 3 Premier League clubs.
Harry Redknapp?
Chelsea, Manchester United and Tottenham.
Oh.
He's pretty special.
Jose.
Yes. Here's Alanga on the halfway line. Darting forward with Murphy going on the outside. 3 minutes to go. Ball into the box. Half cleared by Max Alain. And then up towards the halfway line into the path of Cherki. Bearing in mind, these two have been in first gear since around about the 60-minute mark. Is the fourth official going to add on 7 minutes at the end of the game, do you think?
Well, the answer to your question is probably yes, because they've got to do their job correctly. The game does not need extra time, really, or even manager.
I just wonder how much this is going to have an impact on Newcastle United. I mean, it could have a positive impact on Manchester City, really make them believe that they can go on and, perform well in the latter part of the season. You never know, it could be a turning point as Cherki comes forward, unleashes a cannon from the edge of the area, bounces off of Dan Burn and then picked up by Tonali, and they managed to clear it away. But you just wonder what effect it's going to have on Newcastle United, this sort of brutal defeat in this semi-final.
Yeah, it'll hurt them. I mean, their league position, you think they've got a lot on to get into a European position, let alone a Champions League position. They're on 33 points, I think, at this moment in time, so not impossible, make no mistake about that, but they're going to have to improve their away form, definitely, and their consistency.
They're 7 points back from Chelsea, who are fifth, aren't they? And they're in 11th position at the moment, so they're not even in the top half of the table, which is a bit of a concern. And Wissa is trying to speed through the centre, but Kusanov is there again. He's got such great acceleration, Kusanov. That is going to be a major attribute as he grows into his role in this league, I think.
Yeah, without a doubt. As I say, he's quick. He makes the odd error sort of in possession on occasion.
Well, here's Tonali, edge of the area, capitalising on an error on the edge of the box from Lewis, and straight down the throat of James Trafford.
Yeah, but as I say, at 21 years old, you're bound to make mistakes.
Lovely little touch by Cherki. Such a good player, isn't he? Guides it back to Rodri, and it's Manchester City in possession in the final minute of the game. They're marching towards a 9th League Cup final. It'll be a 5th final in the last 10 years in the Carabao Cup. They've been there, they've done it, they've got the T-shirt. They've only ever lost one final back in 1974 against Wolves, so Arsenal beware. Arsenal through to the first cup final since 2020. Newcastle thought that the game was going to be a little bit tighter than this. They thought they were going to give themselves a chance. The CEO, David Hopkinson, came on the White and Jordan show earlier today and said that they were going to come here and win 2-0, go to extra time and see what happens. Well, they conceded inside the first 7 minutes of the game, and it's been one-way traffic for most of the match in terms of goal scoring. Newcastle have had their chances, didn't take them, and we think there's going to be 2 minutes of additional time at the end of the 90. Here's Alanga, who's got his first Newcastle goal tonight, racing through the middle, pulled back by Nori. That's going to be a yellow card, and it's going to be a free kick on the edge of the box.
Yeah, good driving run there by Alanga. As I say, certainly asked the questions of the back line. They couldn't deal with the pace, and a little tug has drawn the foul.
Yeah. 13th defeat of the season for Newcastle United in all competitions. Not a great return. They have a free kick here. Graham Jones has been particularly active on the near touchline, asking for a bit more punishment for Manchester City. Here is Tonali to take the free kick, right side of the box. He's got Willa Sula to aim at in the centre, or back heel into Murphy, a poor delivery into the area, and it's cleared away. Murphy will get it back again. We've nearly played our 2 minutes of added time. Manchester City going to face Arsenal in the Carabao Cup final at Wembley. For Newcastle, the dream of defending their crown is over. The 56-year wait for a trophy is over, but the 11-year wait for a win at the Etihad continues. Here is Cherki, far side the right. A little back heel, dragged back, and then run into space. Elegantly done. On to Reinders, good turn. He's got support, tries to flick it through past Rico Lewis. And Lewis goes to ground, so does Tonali. The ball spills in midfield. And Manchester City have it back again. It's been a game which Manchester City have won, and Newcastle, although they've competed in, have not taken their chances. It's been a game that the Newcastle fans will forget very quickly, but the Manchester City supporters and Pep Guardiola will remember. Guardiola has his sights set on a 5th Carabao Cup triumph, and to do it, they have to overcome a familiar foe. Mikel Arteta and Arsenal on March the 22nd under the arch at Wembley. They are chasing them in the Premier League. They are the team they have duelled with over the last few years, the master against the apprentice, and now they will duel for the right to win the League Cup. Newcastle lost this tie in the first leg, really, but it really got away from them in the first half of the second leg. Manchester City making sure in the first half with goals from Marmoush and Reinders, and from that point there was no way back. Newcastle's defence of the trophy that changed the narrative on Tyneside is over, but Manchester City's hopes of reclaiming it have only just begun. Full time at the Etihad, 3-1 to Manchester City, 5-1 on aggregate.
Sam, thanks very much. And the City fans that did turn up and stay tonight can celebrate. They can get ready for that trip down to Wembley. It's a place they know well, and they will take on Arsenal. But for Newcastle, there'll be some serious reflections and a very, very strange game indeed from their point of view. Jason Cundy, by the way, is getting his list of Newcastle fans together for the customary start to the sports bar, which is up and coming in around 5 minutes time, and you can get your calls in 03717 22 3344. Cundy and O'Hara, it's the usual duo on the sports bar tonight. But Stuart Pearce, on the face of it, it looks fairly comfortable for Man City, and actually, yes, they could afford to be in first gear, never mind second gear, and they could take it easy, take their foot off the gas. They knew that the tie was won, but Newcastle had a lot of chances in that game. So how do we read that? Is it Newcastle were unlucky, or Man City were in control from start to finish, from the end of the first leg through to the end of the second leg? Well, how do you read it?
Well, the second goal up at St James's was the critical one, you know. So Newcastle were coming down here with the narrative of let's get the first goal, that type of thing. But you've got to say, as soon as Manchester City took the lead in this game as well, the game was probably done. If let's say, Newcastle would have at least took one or two or even three of the chances that were one-on-ones with the goalkeeper, it might have been a totally different story, but they didn't look convincing in front of goal from start to finish.
No, I know what you mean. I mean, there were some seriously missed chances, some good goalkeeping from Trafford as well. Listen, you could question the tactics, three at the back, maybe the selection. Voltemade had injuries as well, and there were those missed chances, but should the Newcastle fans be having a look at Eddie Howe and thinking, hang on a minute, we shouldn't be getting done like this in a semi-final?
No, I don't think the tactical approach had anything to do with it, because I think they're in the game and Eddie will come off. And as I've looked at this with a neutral set of eyes and said they've had 5 outstanding chances in a game. If you'd have said to any manager, you're going to have 5 outstanding chances, at least three are going to be one-on-ones. You would take that all day long and say, well, I'll take whatever result comes my way. So I don't think it had anything to do with that. What I would say is I would have probably, in hindsight, as us pundits are fantastic, in hindsight, Voltemade maybe wasn't the fit for today's game. Maybe 2 quickens up front, and that exposed Manchester City. Manchester City have got to come off and say, we've won the tie comfortably over 2 legs, but for us to see that many efforts on our goal, it can't be right either.
No, it's an interesting way. You've got to look back at this game, and I'm fascinated to listen to the calls on the sports bar that are coming up on Talksport. A word on the final then. Manchester City against Arsenal. 2 managers who know each other well, 2 clubs that know each other well, 2 sets of players that know each other well. I think it's going to be a brilliant final. The best 2 teams in the country.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. It'll be outstanding. Pep knows what it's like to go to a final, especially in this competition. He'll be delighted to be there. Arsenal, the pretenders, are there. and they're by right. You know, they've both had tough semi-finals, no doubt about that. It'll be a brilliant final for us to cover.
Hey, well, Stuart, thank you very much, Sam. Thank you very much. Eddie Howe said that Newcastle could go to any stadium in the world and score goals yesterday. Notwithstanding a couple of weeks ago they had a 0-0 draw at Wolves. Well, this Newcastle's first away game in this season's Carabao Cup, and they have lost it when they needed to win it. Alan Brazil back on breakfast tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. with Gabby Agbonlahor. They'll have plenty of reflections on this semi-final second leg. Friday night, a big game at the bottom as Leeds take on Forest live and exclusive on Talksport. Hugh Woozencroft, your host from Ellen Road from 7 on Talksport. The Etihad was far from full tonight. Why didn't the City fans turn up to support their team as they made it to another cup final? Without those fans, Man City make it a 5th Carabao Cup final in 10 years. They'll face Arsenal at Wembley. Football friends Pep and Arteta meeting again. Big question for Newcastle. The club's chief exec told Talksport this morning they want to be winning the Premier League and Champions League in 5 years' time. A few hours later, they find themselves beaten and battered after just half an hour of a semi-final second leg. They were 3 down. Eddie Howe's tactics and selection have been questioned tonight, but is it time to question Eddie Howe himself? Is he the man to take Newcastle to where the chief exec says they're going to be? Sports Bar is next. 03717 22 33 44.